Hello.
Hey.
Welcome, everybody. Give Ryan Ryan was here, and then he left. So we'll welcome everybody.
We
We're
had the
getting
cure
set
for
up.
Ryan, and we lost it.
So this is welcome to the 800th episode live stream. We are going to be doing a regular show. It's not like a hangout, so we'll be doing a lot of business in a minute and getting going. I'm gonna give people a few minutes. I'm gonna run downstairs and fill up my drinks. And then we'll start getting ready. Ryan's going to be here in about 2 minutes, so we'll just wait for Ryan. So Josh, you can entertain the people and monologue and stuff. Well, I'll be right back.
What if I pay my bills instead during this time?
You can do that too. You can talk people through your banking. That's fine.
That's fine. They can look at me while I go, what's that $10? Popping out a chat. There it is. We're not going to talk about die number 20. Largely because we didn't read anything after number 1. I don't know, 4 or 5 maybe. I forget. I recorded one riff. I had it for today. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do tomorrow. My mom is staying here, and it's not a good place to be loud. So we'll see. I don't know if I can keep up with it this year, but I say that every year.
This is what I had to run get, Connor.
Coffee?
Espresso.
Espresso martini?
No, just a straight double shot of espresso.
All right.
Wow. You're either so you have so much tolerance to it, or you're so tired that it won't matter, or B, or C, I guess would be fuck it. That's also a possibility.
We're well into C territory right now. Yeah. I'm a real C word.
I am seeing fatigue under your eyes in a way that I have not. And I understand.
All right. So,
but you have a haircut. I think the last time I saw you were.
I do not have a haircut. I have
you don't? Bun. Oh shit!
Look at that!
Wow.
I went full bun. No
haircut.
Well,
look from this angle.
Full Cullen bun.
I got the Jon Snow widow's peak and the man bun to back it up.
Jon Snow is.
He's got like a weird, like a half similar.
You have a pointy one. I have a subtle one. I think it used to be pointier.
I'm gonna just put this on social, and then we can get started. It's very exciting. Why am I blurry? Autofocus. Fuck off. This is exciting. So yeah, 800 episodes. We have a full slot of things to do tonight.
Full dance slot.
Yep, full dance slot. Full Cullen bun. It's gonna be enough of a comic creator puns tonight.
Oh no.
We're gonna bend it like Bendis.
Oh god. I can't even do this.
I'm gonna invite Paul on. He's gonna pun the whole night.
Oh, the man's got a talent. I can't argue with that.
That's true. All right.
It's a terrible, evil talent, but
people are saying I'm too far from the mic.
Yeah, you might want to get closer to your mouth. It's okay if it covers your face. This is not a hangout.
Is that a Yeti though?
Yeah, it's a Yeti. I just turned up the gain.
You shouldn't need to be that close to it. Like they're super
no, but it's
powerful.
not. The bubble's next to his cheek, not next to his mouth.
He can change that. Anyway.
Can you rotate it?
Let's sounds fine to me.
Instead of the show.
Yeah, it's rotated.
I have the script here. All the emails we got. It's exciting. Thanks everybody who sent in emails. Do we go over anything before we start?
How many powers do I need to have ready?
Just one.
Oh, good.
I'm just going to do one each.
I forgot about that.
We have an ad read. We have powers. We have internal ad read. And
Jamokes in the chat. Is this better now that I've made some adjustments?
I mean, usually this mic's the lowest of all of them, so.
That's true. But you sound great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've been sitting in this chair since 9 a.m.
I've pretty much done that much time in this chair. I had to get up for a little while in the middle, but
although I did get up for lunchtime and go exercise. Don't tell my boss.
I know everybody.
I went
think
this morning.
Setting that I might be blowing you out now.
I mean, the thing is, we'll just take your voice right off the show, and then, if that's
I like that he said, "Blowing you." I'm blowing you out there, lad.
Okay, so any questions before we get started?
Who has the pick?
Well, the only one.
Did you read the books?
The only one who's read a single comic book.
One of the main reasons I agreed to be on the show this week is because I knew I only had to read 2 books and the rest is just bullshit.
All right. That's what the people come for. It's already getting hot. I'm going to have to turn the fan on.
Oh, it's been so cold. I had to turn the heat on in my office today. It was great.
It's going to be, no one cares about this. It's going to be the high in the low 60s next weekend, but this weekend's going to be 90.
Is that from David Lynch's weather report? Is he still doing that?
He's still doing it, but that's not from his weather report. It's from my phone.
Weather report so much.
It's from Apple's weather report. All right, people are still coming in. We'll give them one more minute. Okay, so if you are watching this now or later, we have a ton of emails. We're not going to get to them all. If you wrote it in, we don't get to it. But sorry, I'll say it again in the show. But just so you know, Josh, you have lots of questions just for you this time.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we're going to get deep on Josh this time.
Can we not go deep on me?
Prefer not.
People have commented that my room is Spartan. This is my wife's office. She was nice enough to let me set up in here. But
why is her room Spartan? Let's get into that.
She's got no time to.
Because we only moved a couple of months ago, so who's got time to decorate an office?
She's had some stuff going on then.
Mm-hmm. And this was an in-law housing unit chamber for several weeks. So
at least put a tapestry up.
Is it too echoey?
That's Connor's like late 90s college. Remember, that's what you do with
tapestry and a lava lamp, man. What are you doing?
Put a tapestry up.
Then
I actually want to put one here
in a beret and says he's here to see the tapestries.
Also, by the way, 1 week ago today, Ron was sleeping right there. His little head. All right, let's get going. And hope this records.
So I do the thing.
You have the short.
Do you need me to backup record?
We just pull the audio off of the YouTube video.
I do not need this preview of myself.
I like to have like 4 windows of myself up just for comfort.
I was on a Zoom call.
It's the only way Connor can get off.
Oh yeah. That's the show's been keeping me going the last 15 years.
I was on some conference call today, and somebody shared their screen, and instead of sharing the tab, they shared the whole screen. Then he opened the thing back up, and so I was looking at myself in like 4 different places. I was like, "Please share, please." And then in another meeting, somebody was doing the Ron typing.
Oh no!
I was like, "Mike, I need you to mute." It was just like
I was sharing today, and I hit the wrong tab, and I shared the Google Meet program on itself. And it was the thing where it went into infinity.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
And I was like, this is kind of cool, guys. We could just do this. But they didn't want to do that. All right. I'm a bit of an outlier in my office, my work.
I know the feeling.
He's really good at talking. Make him talk to everybody. All right. So.
Run the meeting. He'll figure out what to say eventually.
Hey, in the chat room, if you want to say hi, where you're from and where you are, that's fun. And we'll get going whenever Josh is ready.
There's a question here about music, so I'm going to answer that before we start. It's, am I picking up Kid Amnesiac, which is the re-release of Radiohead's seminal 2000 album Kid A, and also Amnesiac, which is sort of like a B-side of that. And very quickly, without thinking about it, I bought the $150 double white album set. Like that. It was done so quickly that I went, that was a bad choice, because the black one was like half the price, no different, just was black instead of white, and I made that choice, which was a bad choice.
Hey, that's how it goes, man.
Yeah, it was.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers to 800. Let's have a good show.
Sometimes you make a bad choice.
Sometimes you make a bad choice. Everyone's got to make them. Let's have a good show, everybody. Let's stay safe out there.
Let's stay safe out there. We're all stuck in our small rooms. What is in my drink?
I'm ready to go.
All right, 3, 2. This is iFanboy Pick of the Week number 800. Brought to you by Second Print Comics. Go to secondprintcomics.com or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And iFanboy listeners just like you who are washing their hands, wearing their masks, getting vaccinated, and sending us a check for $19.95 every single month. No. And we're live to tape. This is live. It's always live, to be honest, but other people are watching and listening to this to be live. Anyway, start the music.
All right. Good job. You pulled it back in.
Thanks.
Good job. All right. Let's do this. Keep it together.
And in 3, 2. Hello, welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week podcast. This is episode 800.
Woo!
800. That's the part where I've basically been telling people in real life. I was like, we have to do our 800th episode this week. My wife was like, you are kidding me.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for 800. I'm Josh Flanagan.
I felt every one of them.
That was like there was a darkness to the way that you said that. But let people know who you are, and then we'll move along. I'm Josh Flanagan. I'm here with my co-host Connor Kilpatrick, who's
hello,
been here
everybody.
787 of them with me, I think.
A lot of them.
A lot of that. And over here, Dr. Ryan Haupt, sitting in the Ron Richards Memorial third chair this week.
Hello, we miss him. Ron's here with us, gone but not
Spirit.
forgotten.
Well, you know. But you're here. It's good. It's good. Don't worry. Don't worry about him. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm the Rob Lowe to his Mark Brandanowitz.
We are iFanboy. We like comics, and every week we read a bunch of comics, and one of us picks the one that they like the best. That is called the Pick of the Week. Listen, that's not science. That's just, you say 800 in, you should know.
It's art.
What made you feel? Well, this one made me feel. Was it the best comic? It's the Pick of the Week, though. That's what I know. We call it that. That's the Pick of the Week. That's our. Well, it's not a trademark. It's we never thought about doing that.
Never did that.
Other people have used it. I'm sure it was trademarked. I'm sure we're probably in violation somewhere. We're going to talk about that. We talk about other books from the week, except for this week. We won't be doing that because this is an all email special edition thing that we do. Every time we get to one of these, is it 50s and 100s?
Every 50.
We make you people write in a bunch of emails and we answer them basically as long as we can hold out.
Yeah. So if you somehow hit your head and stumbled on this show, this is not the normal show. Come next week or the week before. Well, not really the week before. That was with some random dude. But this next week would be more like a normal show.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You don't know what you're going to get. So we have a lot to get to go. There's going to be spoilers. We're in the couple of books that we are going to talk about. It's very possible there will be spoilers in other things we talk about. I don't know that. If you're super sensitive to it, I think it's worth it in this point to just get over it and enjoy the show. That's what I think you should do because we're not going to worry about it right now.
Yeah, it's true.
Connor, now a lot of times Connor has Pick of the Week. It's not a big deal, but this week that meant that he had to read everything, and Ryan and I had to read nothing.
I like to point out that I looked, and the last time we did this, I also had to pick. Whatever the numbers are, I keep getting it. You get
off on these shows more than anybody else. So
I like to do the shows, but I like to read 2 books. I got things to do.
Well, to be fair, the last time I skipped a show, which was about a month ago, was a really big week, and this was the week that payment was going to come due. So now, 4 weeks from now, I'm in big trouble if I don't try to make up some ground.
I had like 25 books.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And the Pick of the Week was Batman, Superman 22. And I'm not denigrating this book at all, but it was not a great week. So I'm kind of happy we didn't have to talk about a lot of books because it was a very average week.
I got to tell you, and I don't want to steal your thunder or anything, but I read this book. It was the only book other than the Patron Pick that I read. Yeah. And there's a I don't know if it's a page turn. I think it's a page turn where I went, oh fuck. That is the Pick of the Week. And I was so glad that I didn't have to read anything else so that this could become pure. Because by the end of this issue, I was 1,000% with you.
It was a clear pick. I mean, even though the rest of the week was kind of average, this was a clear pick. Any other week, it's the Pick of the Week. And this is sort of, I'm glad we're doing it on this episode. It's sort of quintessentially iFanboy in that we thought the annual was the last issue of this run. This is the last issue of this run. Oh. So this is it, which is unfortunate. This is Gene Luen Yang's run. He did about 5 or 6 issues on the regular book. They needed an annual, and now this one. And Ryan, you read all those too, right?
Oh yeah.
And what's really a bummer is that he took this opportunity to really play with the form of comics in the way that most people just don't. The first one was all about parallel storytelling that came together. The annual was a flip book that came together in the middle, so it didn't matter which way you read it; they both would have read the same. And this issue, involving Mr. Mixie-Pitalik and Calendar Man teaming up, unfortunately slightly tied into the current continuity of Batman, but we overlook that. In this issue, Mr. Mixie-Pitalik allows Calendar Man to see the truth of the reality that they're living in boxes. And these boxes are panels. And so
that's
Calendar Man can look forward. He looks into the gutter and can see what's coming. Or, and on page 9 of your digital reader, he swings a club, misses the guy, but hits him in the next panel. And I was like, he's having a great time.
Which, Josh, do you remember I sent you a webcomic that was that same concept?
Vaguely.
It was like a guy who was the hero of the strip was able to see what was happening in other panels in the comic and able to affect events out of the temporal sequence of the panels. As this was very reminiscent of that, but in a way that played with it and riffed on it a little bit more than that one single page webcomic could.
What I think was cool here is that at first, so I went into this knowing it was pick of the week. So I was like, well, I got to look for something for this to be. You start off with Mixie-Pitalik and Calendar Man, and I thought that's not really a thing that Connor would be like, oh, this makes me feel amazing.
And Paul Pelletier is he's
sure.
a good artist, but he doesn't blow my socks off. He's a very DC artist.
So he says, look, they're all made of little boxes. And I was like, hey, the Weeds theme song. But then after that,
I thought that too.
They put the numbers in here, and I was like, and I didn't really get it. And then on that page 7, he looks outside of the panel to the reader's left, and he says, oh my God, there's the past. And I went, oh, yeah. And it was like one of those, and that was okay. That was kind of cool because you can really blow it after that and have it be stupid. But the thing was that he didn't. He kept expanding on the concept as he kept going. So he broke the panel downwards. He looked across to a different page. He succeeded in all of the things. Of course, he got outsmarted by Batman and Superman.
Well, he gets the editor's red pen and starts crossing stuff out. That goes away.
It slices his arm off. It got very silly. I don't know. It was just like the other ones. It was the perfect amount of silly and innovative and interesting, and that's still the same love letter because it's all sort of Silver Agey outside of those things.
And then Mr. Mixie-Pitalik turns to us in the Grant Morrison Animal Man way and yells at us for reading the same stories over and over and over again.
And then that was the final bit. I was like, oh, he's talking because it's really easy to do that stuff and be gimmicky and not do it. But I was like, oh, I forget, this guy is literally a genius and we're seeing it.
Yeah. Well, I'd have been thinking about Gene Luen Yang as a similar writer to Grant Morrison in his previous arc on this, because the idea of the auteur IO and the guy with all the tape.
You're really right.
But I know from hearing interviews with both of them and actually interacting with both of them, they could not be more different as people. No. And so the fact that they have this similar sort of high concept ability to tell these really far out comic stories in a way that still works is kind of impressive.
One thing that I was thinking is that it was like a year and a half ago they had this conversation, but I believe Yang has a degree in computer science.
That's what he taught for a while. Yeah.
And I was going through this and I thought, oh, I can see that here. It's
a formula.
There's a logic to it, though, that I think I may have had a hard time seeing, but he sort of worked within that. And I'm not saying you can totally sell these, but there's a different way of not even linear thinking, but sort of looking at this from a different angle and pulling it around. I just found it really well thought out. A lot of people can have the idea, but to sort of execute on the concept through the whole thing and actually deliver a story with a narrative throughout it. I was really
and the thing
impressed.
Is the story itself, it's fine. Mr. Mixie-Pitalik grabs Calendar Man out of A Day, which was in the main Batman book where Joker attacks Arkham and kills everybody. And, and then he tries to help him, fight Batman and Superman. It's fine. But what's really cool is the construction of it and the imagination of it and the culmination of this entire run in which he's really, really played with everything, played with how you read a comic, how comics are laid out, I love the annual, which was a standard story, but just a little gimmick that you can read it
Mm-hmm.
backwards or forwards, no matter which way you read it. It works the same way. Like that's someone who really sits down and thinks about what they're doing.
It also
really
speaks to the strength of the Batman Superman title, because obviously we enjoy seeing those two characters play off of each other and their dynamic, but as this comic even makes the point, that dynamic is pretty tried and true at this point. And so what you can do to innovate in a book like this is find two villains that have never teamed up before,
right.
A Batman villain and a Superman villain, and figure out what about those two villains could be interesting, could make them uneasy allies, could make them augment each other's weirdnesses and abilities. So I like that they did that.
It's interesting that I don't think I thought about it till you mentioned it, but like this whole book is about a parallelism, and that's what Batman and Superman are. They're both sides of a coin, but they're sort of equal pulls on this through the whole thing. And he kind of changed that into the form of the whole thing in several different ways. And I think the sad part of it is that I don't know what the audience for this is other than us. It's vaguely Silver Agey. It's really high concept-y. High concept's not correct. Conceptual. It's not the de rigueur sort of superhero stuff that you read. So
it's strange in an era in which, well, it's more at Marvel, but somewhat at DC, where every time a creative team changes, they get a reboot and a renumbering at number one. Batman Superman didn't have that for Yang. So it was almost like the book was totally lost in the traffic, and
it was like deep into was it metal? Not metal.
It was right after all that stuff.
Yeah,
but like the sad thing is
Joker
that
the Batman Who Laughs was the main character in it for a little while.
Right. Yeah, I'd even stopped reading it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it just might be the way of the world that Yang who does solid work in the Wednesday Warrior genre, is maybe not as big there as he should be. He did his Shang-Chi has been really great. I've been really enjoying it, but it's not like burning up the charts. But it's not. And then Superman versus the Klan. Was that versus the Klan?
I think that did pretty well.
Smashes the Klan.
Smashes the Klan. Yeah, that was great. But it's a bummer that a lot of people didn't check this out. That they didn't just cancel it. They canceled it quickly.
Yeah. I'm guessing they looked ahead. The
numbers must have been really terrible.
We've talked about the fact that not a lot of names move units, but his name doesn't do that really, which is sad because I think he's this guy who has justified his position and his notoriety over and over and over again, because he's done a lot of stuff that is different from all the other things, but it's always at least impressive in not even the attempt. His execution's very good.
Terrific. I've given people those books for Christmas, and they all love them.
But there's something about it that isn't quite de rigueur in the way that people want other superhero comics right now.
Yeah, it's less about the plot; it's more about the form. That's okay. I'd like to point out that I don't know when we started on the ticker, so I have no idea how long we've been talking about this. So let's just move on.
Real high wire act.
to.
It was great. It was a really good pick, and
it was terrific.
You showed the panel, and I guess the viewers at home won't see this, but you showed the panel where Calendar Man pushes Superman's head down into freeze breathing himself. I don't think even Calendar Man even catching Superman unawares. Do that.
There was a bit of that. He punched them all, and I was like, that's not going to hurt Superman.
Right.
But
he's going to break his own hand before
it doesn't matter.
Unless by being exposed to the reality of the world, he is now super strong. He's beyond what the construct. It doesn't matter.
I was just go ahead, Ron.
One thing we didn't touch on is how rare is it these days to get a solid single issue story?
Yeah, just a one shot story.
Yeah, you got to get canceled for that.
Right. That is the sad thing of this issue probably wouldn't have come out if the book hadn't been canceled. This is a great, because it doesn't really sum up anything that has happened previous. It really is a standalone story, but it's fantastic, and it's so rare to get that. I feel like in your Wednesday books, your two Wednesday books these days.
Early in the book, I started to get real happy, and then when I got to the end, I was just real happy in a way that a comic book doesn't do to me that often. And it just made me happy. I was like, that was just delightful in every possible way, and I'm glad that was a thing.
Yeah, someone in the chat room mentioned that Yang should be spearheading DC's YA movement, which they've done. They're doing a ton of YA books, and he did one. Superman Smash the Klan was a YA book, so hopefully he has more of them. I don't want to pigeonhole him. He should be able to do non-YA stuff. Although even though really comics are all YA in the end of the day, but Anyway, let's move on to the patron pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where every patron who joins up can vote to add a book to the rundown. And I'm trying to fix my autofocus. It was a crazy week. We had 2 books battling it out for number 1. We had a contingent of the Discord patrons who were voting for Die number 20. But at the end of the day, by 1 vote, the patron pick was the 51-page Inferno number 1, kicking off, I think, the end of Hickman's run on X-Men. And this is written by Jonathan Hickman. I didn't really do the credits right the first book. I'm sorry. This is all very different than how we normally do it.
I didn't even look at it.
Written by Jonathan Hickman, drawn by Valerio Schitti. I'm trying to find the credits page. Or so far into the book. Come on.
Colors by David Curiel and letters by Joe Sabino.
Oh, there's a script here. I wrote it.
You know, you're the one who. Yeah, you also started. You said we should probably put these credits on the script.
I know, but this is not normal. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at Ryan. This is not. I'm normally just looking at the script the whole time. Because we script this whole thing, all these little sides, and just this is all scripted.
This is like SNL Tuesday nights.
Yeah, why do you think the script's so thick? This is
9 p.m. to 3.
All the digressions.
Much like SNL, it lasts way longer than any one joke would warrant, but we're here for it. And we're going to stick it out to the end.
We've been driving it into the ground since 2005. That's our motto. So, I'll be honest. So, like, I've been enjoying Hickman's overall X-Men stories. I've been reading his X-Men book. I've been reading Marauders, reading X-Corp. I wasn't super excited about Die because that's a book that both Josh and I dropped after about 3 or 4 issues. But I read this comic. I definitely read this comic. I don't really remember what happened in it.
I read it. You know what I mean?
I read it. Yeah, I read the pages, the words. I looked at the pictures.
You know what? I'll tell you that about 20 pages in, it was the first time I looked to see how far I'd gotten because I knew it was a 51-page book. And at 21 pages in, I thought, I don't mind this. I'm kind of having fun with it.
Which is unusual for you with an Hickman book.
22 pages in, I was like, uh-oh. And it never recovered.
I have a hard time when you hand me a 51-page book and the first, how many pages? The first 10 pages end up being like a computer simulation.
That was great for me. That's just bonus.
The thing is, I like the setup. I like the world. I like Fuck Island. I like the thruples. I like the X-Men hanging out at tiki bars on Fuck Island having thruples. Like, I like all of it. But then you send the X-Men into space, and then there's aliens. And there's,
my issue with all of Hickman's X-Men run, which I dropped, so I was picking this up. I picked up this issue not having read much of what had gotten us to this point. And my issue with Hickman's run on X-Men, and this is sort of a low-key issue with a lot of his books, but it was, for me, particularly egregious on the X-Men to the point where I dropped it, is I feel like so much of the book is just telling me what the story is going to be about, and I never actually feel like I'm involved in the story. Like, it's so many conversations about, let's sit around the table and talk about what's going to happen next, or let's make a phone call and ask about the computer code software we ordered. And it's just,
I see what you're saying. I think this might be, I don't know if this is like an event. I don't know what anything is anymore. I don't know if this is like,
everything's kind of an event.
Right, so I don't know if this is like a setup for the, so that would make sense. But
the list of books that you're supposed to read at the, to get to this point pissed me off. I was actively mad at it because it's such a random assortment of X books. It's Hellions 15, New Mutants 21, Excalibur 23, X-Force 23. Like that's all.
It's been that way the whole time though. They just list all the X-Men books.
Well, I'm mad at it.
I'm telling you don't need to. I've been reading just 3 of them. And
I'm still mad. I will be mad. You can't
tell
me not to be mad at it.
All right.
So here's the thing, though, about Jonathan Hickman, and I think it's time that we all admit this.
If you're listening at home, Josh just took his glasses off. So
he doesn't tell a story. He tries to be cool. He's not telling a story. He's trying to be cool. He's trying to make all the people sound cool and all the stuff look cool, and completely at the expense of the narrative, which he's burying under all of this attitude. And it's happened in every single thing that he's done forever. So even if there is a great narrative in there somewhere, you have to work your ass off to find it and go with his asides and his sort of non-direct thing. And some people get away with it really well. But at this point, like, I have read so many of these stories, and I love smart writing, and I haven't found any. because it might be in here somewhere, but it's unclear as hell.
I just want to say goodbye to all the Jonathan Hickman fans because our viewership numbers took a big hit after you started talking.
I don't get it. I don't think it's good. I've made excuses for it for the longest time. I've said, like, well, man, I don't get it, or it's just, you know what? It's been fucking 10 years of me trying to read these books, and everyone's like, these are great. And I was like, I don't think so. I think this is like some artsy shit that people want to say they like, but they don't really like, and they don't understand it.
His Fantastic Four was legitimately great. I got bored by his Avengers. I think I read a couple of issues and dropped off. That was like one of the first times I ever dropped reading Avengers. Fantastic Four was legitimately good.
But like, what's the story of this issue? What happened?
I'm the one who told you I don't remember anything about it. I'm not saying this was great. I'm just saying I'll defend Fantastic Four to the death. The rest of it, Secret Warriors was really good too.
Jonathan Hickman talk. It's like he's looking off to the side and he's smirking a little bit about another thing that's going on that you're not aware of. That's how his comic books read.
Well,
and
I mean, look.
For a long time I thought, well, it's just not me. I'm just not into it. Now I'm like, I don't think it is just me.
Yeah. If anything, I blame the patrons.
That's the funniest thing that's been said on this show for months.
All right,
what I wanted to know is, like, over at Marvel HQ, like, is everyone like, oh man, sure thing, Mr. H, this is great. Like, do they like? I want to know what the editors say to themselves. Do they really think it's genius?
I've been really liking his X-Men books. Like the ones he's been writing. I think it's been fun. There's been stories. There's been interesting concepts. There's been fun relationships. I think it's been good. I think it's been legitimately good. I didn't like this, but I think this is legitimately good.
There are really good ideas in these things. There's really cool bits, and like, he's got a swagger to him that's really fun. But ultimately, like, the narrative just keeps getting lost over and over again. And I
will say, Valerio Schiti was great.
He really was.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I looked at it and went, oh, I know who this artist is, and it was better than the last time I saw him.
I thought it was Pepe Larraz for a minute. It was
too.
really good. Yeah.
I did too.
I like the Bishop redesign. He looks a little young for me, but like I like the Bishopy swagger.
That's the Krakoan experience. It keeps you young and fit and supple.
You have to be if you're going to live on Fuckboy Island.
The beginning bit where,
Island, not Fuckboy.
Luckily, I had read the stuff with Moira. And I kind of remembered it. I was like, "Oh right, she lives over."
I had forgotten that. I don't think I really understand her powers. Does she? When she dies, she goes back to her birth and lives again.
Yes, but she has the information and knowledge she had gained in the other one. That's
right, but it's not like we notice.
Like, if she died today, she's not born tomorrow in our timeline.
Right.
Her consciousness goes back in time to her original birth.
But then, how is she alive again in the present?
It's almost like
consciousness.
It's not high concept an idea to actually make sense.
Yeah, but it's clever, and like the idea that the people are like, she's always matching wits with people, and she's like, well, the difference between you and me is that you haven't lived through this. You can see my thoughts, and I thought, oh, that's really good.
But that whole scene,
and then there was other shit.
Yeah, that whole scene with her and Charles and Magneto, where they keep just emphasizing over and over again that she's the most important person in the Marvel universe, and I'm just like, A, I don't buy that. You've not made You've not made the case that that's true.
Yeah.
B, if that was true, why are you infantilizing her by putting her in an undersea bubble beneath your perfect mutant island?
Because they're scared of her.
I thought it was
House of X or.
But I had one more point to make. It was that I thought it was really cool that Magneto opens a bottle of wine with his magnet powers.
Well, yeah, I would use it all the time.
I was like, why are they in zero gravity? Oh.
All right, I think the best way to start this show off is with a little bit of arguing. That's how it gets the juices flowing, gets the blood pumping. Let's do some ratings on this. Ratings on Inferno #1, the 51-page extravaganza from Jonathan Hickman and Valerio Schiti and team. Ratings out of 5, 2.6753.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I'm going a flat 2.
2.
Sticking with it.
And all of that is pretty much for the art team.
Sticking with it.
No, I'm mad at it.
No, I'm angry too.
All right. Okay. Those are your picks.
Like,
There's your Patron
It's like watching the entire series of Lost on every page.
All right.
Maybe something will make sense by the... Nope.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can go. Every page you can vote there. The book, the rundown. I try to keep it, remind them all. This was only the second. 50% of the books on the show are going to be up to you. So That's what they went for. Hey, look, it's email time, everybody. I should get to the right part of the script. So this is episode 800, as Josh mentioned. It was probably before the show started. That on the 50s, we do the all email show. Usually lasts long. We thank everyone who writes in. We asked for emails. Tons of people wrote in. The standard disclaimer applies. Way too many emails to do on this, even if it's a long show, because there's just so many of them. You can see the viewers on the chat room can see that you can't. There's just too many to do. But thank you for writing in. We'll try to get to them for the regular show. Also, we removed the platitudes from the emails. We read all of them though, and we are very flattered and touched. Thanks for all the kind words. We appreciate it. We just have to save time here. So let's get to the first email. Comes from Alan F. from Orlando, Florida. Alan says, "Oh, sorry. Wait, before we get to Alan's email, I promised we have to talk about what we're drinking. Sorry, Ryan.
I was going to keep drinking whether you told us to talk about it or not.
We're going to talk about. So we like to have a cocktail on these shows. We don't normally do that because normally we're recording at 6 o'clock in the morning for me, which is a sign of a problem. So what are we drinking, Ryan, for this?
It's hard to show, but I've got a beautiful pear float garnish in here. This is a cocktail Julie made up. It's
a very full glass.
It's got apple cider in it, so it's not all booze. So it's apple cider. It's this liqueur from Iceland called Bjork that's made with like birch bark, and then it's this. It's called maple syrup moonshine from this guy named Vic Bob in West Virginia, who ferments moonshine and then distills it into maple syrup moonshine. It's a very unique product. So it's that with some apple cider and
Does this come with a curly mustache that goes out to either side of your face?
No, this is like some good old boy stuff. This is not hipster.
Wait, did you say his name was Vic Bob?
Yeah.
Boss Vic Bob? Like, does he go a little dance on the stage?
Because your description sounded like a Portlandia sketch.
No, he's not there anymore. He's in a different part of the country now.
Yeah, this is like rural West Virginia stuff. This is real Vic Bob. This is not hipster Vic Bob. So she didn't have a name for it. So I don't know if we want to come up with call it Hickman's Revenge or something. I don't know what the title for the drink would be, but it's very tasty, and I appreciate her making it for me.
I broke out. I got a really nice bottle of scotch last year for Christmas, and I haven't touched it since. So I decided to break it out for the show. It's a Macallan double case gold, and so that's what I'll be drinking tonight.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but I'm drinking it. It's good. Let's look at the amber color. It's warm.
Is it how peaty is it? Give me a peat. Give me a peat. Like, is it super?
The first sip warmed me. It was nice. It's not peaty.
Okay.
I like it. All right, let's get to Alan F. from Orlando, Florida.
Wait, Josh didn't get to tell us what he was drinking.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper.
If I Dr. Pepper Zero, it's gone now. I have a cider downstairs that I was thinking of getting, but we'll wait until
have somebody bring you the cider.
I don't know how your marriage works, but
I have a whole bunch of things downstairs that are going to be brought to me throughout the night. All right, email time. Let's do this. Alan F. from Orlando, Florida. I've listened to this show since around 2006, which is crazy since we started in 2005. However, I am not what I would classify as a comics reader. I don't do weekly issues and only occasionally pick up trades and collected editions that I do admittedly hear about from you guys. For instance, New Frontier and the Parker collections from Darwin Cook. So my question to you guys is, am I an outlier? Or do you guys find you actually have a fair amount of listeners who don't typically read comics? Do you find it weird, interesting, creepy that people like myself tune in just because we find the mythology of comics interesting and enjoy your banter?
I don't know.
Didn't think it was creepy until you suggested it might be.
No, I don't think it's creepy. I
really
like it. I like when somebody says I listen, but I don't read the comics, because that's to me that's a huge compliment. That means that it's entertaining enough or interesting enough in some way that you're not just there to sort of have it go along with your fix or whatever. I find that to be if somebody's like, there's a bunch of people. I don't know what the numbers or the percentages.
We hear from people who say I keep up with what's going on through you guys.
Yeah,
I keep up with the storylines through you.
And I think about that like when we start talking about something really specific in an issue, where I'll be like, but Connor, look on page 4 on that third panel, and I'm just like, this must be difficult for people, but also
that's why I always try to make sure at least to mention what's happening.
Yeah.
Even if we're not talking about the plot, I always want to mention it. But that we had friends a while ago, a long time ago, who would listen just because they were our friends and like didn't read comics. So I know Josh's wife's a weekly listener.
I mean, I almost have the opposite experience where, like, for a long time, especially before I was sort of a regular substitute co-host, the single issues I read were almost entirely dictated by what you all would talk about on the podcast. I would maybe read one or two series that were series that I was just into that weren't regularly talked about. And I mean, there was also back in the era of like Invincible and Walking Dead, so which you guys didn't regularly talk. So, my experience as a listener was often I would keep up with the books that I knew or regular things that were talked about on the show, and everything else was kind of just background noise. And that was my single issue reading experience.
So it's not weird or interesting, or I mean, let's think of it. It's not weird or creepy, Alan. It's actually not uncommon. It's not majority, but it's not uncommon. So thanks for listening, though. I'd like to point out
I find it to be a compliment. Is what I find
for sure, absolutely. I hope we're entertaining, even if you've read the books or not read the books. I've seen people be like, "Oh, I don't want to listen because I haven't read any of those books." Well, hopefully we're entertaining if you have read the books or not read the books, because that's what we're trying to be, is entertaining. Before we move on to Tom M, Josh, which I want you to read, is we got a lot of non-comics questions this year, and I'm psyched about it. We tell them anything goes, and they actually went for it this time. So
we can't keep talking about comics forever.
This is where we tell everyone we're moving off of comics, starting with 801. It's going to be a guitar podcast.
That's good, because what the world needs is another vague pop culture nerdy comic book or nerdy podcast.
But
Josh,
hey, at least we're three white men. Exactly.
Ryan, you read too.
I will read too. Tom M from The Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy podcast. I'm 42, which is the answer to the life, the universe, and everything. And I knew you guys are also in your mid-40s. Not yet.
Whoa.
What was your first concert and your best concert you went to in the 1990s? For me, it was my first was Hootie and the Blowfish in 1995. Best show in the 90s was The Violent Femmes in 1997.
Oh my God, you should have gone to other shows.
Hey, listen, he likes things.
I know.
They were huge in 95.
I know, but that's just me. They were huge, so I've been like, that must be terrible. Especially in 1995, I would have said that.
So
the thing about 95, I was a snob, but I didn't know any cool stuff. So who knows?
Josh, what was the first concert you went to in the 90s?
The first concert I ever went to was in the 90s, so it
might as well.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the 90s, we were like 11. So.
All right. So the first real show I ever went to, like as a kid, not going with your parents to something, although I can't remember what it did, was Diggable Planets, who had the rap hit single "Cool Like That."
Cool.
They played in my hometown at the college, and then the next year Arrested Development were there. So apparently they had a thing at that college to bring stuff in.
Good booker.
And then that year, I'm gonna say the fall of my senior year of high school, Dinosaur Jr. played a show in Portland, Maine. It was my first sort of rock show, and I'm still a huge fan of that band to this day. There was a double pit going on there, and it blew my mind. That was fantastic. The best show I ever saw in the 90s, I went and I saw Beck and Ben Folds 5 and Elliott Smith.
In college?
Did not near the end of it. Yeah, it's Saratoga Springs, I think.
Oh.
Now, I didn't know who Elliott Smith was at that point. I have no recollection of having seen him, and it's one of my life's great regrets, because now I consider him to be, one of my favorite artists of all time. I was a big Ben Folds fan, still am, and I don't like Beck, but that was the best performer that I saw in that entire decade. He was amazing. It was such a good show. I can't tell you why, but that was a thing that I was like, wow.
Some people, it doesn't matter if you're a fan of the music. If they're a great performer, you'll enjoy the show.
They were. He's totally. Like Buddy Guy is the other one I saw like that. I was like, that was the most amazing show I've ever seen. And like, I'm not a huge Buddy Guy fan.
I was wrong. In the 90s wasn't my first concert. It was the first concert I remember going to.
That's fine.
Because when I saw Willie Nelson a couple of years ago, I was hanging out with my uncle the next day having barbecue in Austin, Texas, and he was like, I was telling him I was so excited to finally see Willie Nelson. He was like, "You saw Willie Nelson when you were a kid. We took you to see Willie Nelson here when you were a kid." I was like, "I don't remember. I was a kid." In the 90s, my first show was Jewel at Jones Beach. Somebody had VIP tickets, and they were like, "Want to go see Jewel at Jones Beach?" And I was like, "I want to see Jewel at Jones Beach." So we went. My best, and I didn't go to a ton of shows. My best concert in the 90s was, I think, one of the shows on campus. And honestly, the most fun I had at a show was George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars.
Oh, wow. I
saw that at the gym, at the Ben Light Gymnasium at the college.
I didn't go to that.
And the person I came with, I don't even know who I went with, honestly. I don't know who I went with. And they left. And I ended up staying by myself the whole time, and they played for like 5 hours.
That's amazing.
And I was in the front next to the speakers, and my ears rang for 3 days.
If I was me now and be able to tell them, I was like, don't not go to George Clinton ever.
It was terrific. And I'm not like a George Clinton fan, but it was incredible. They were all into it.
Did you go to
I went to Mighty Boss
De La Soul? Mighty Boss Tones they were great. That was a great show. He pulled me up on stage and I did a stage dive. Like he was just pulling everybody up. And Fishbone, Mighty Boss Tones. And then another night it was De La Soul and Goody Mob. That was also amazing. And Fishbone. Wait, Fishbone's
the one
anyway.
For $8.50, can we get a dancing guy to be the fourth screen? And he just never says anything but just dances the entire time.
The one I'm really bummed about is I missed Bob Dylan and somebody else. But anyway.
I also saw
Ryan, did you go to any shows in the 90s when you were a child?
Nope.
What was your best concert you ever been to?
Well, I mean, so if you're letting me go forward in time to the early 2000s, first show I went to as a person who cared about music and was actually trying to go to shows, I think I went to the Vans Warped Tour in 2002 or 3.
That's a good time to go.
It was perfect for me at the time.
I would have loved it then.
It was like Rufio and Flogging Molly and all these girls.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, super fun.
I love pop punk. I have no problem with it.
Best
Flogging
show I
Molly's
probably went
perfect.
to.
We use them all the time on the show.
I went to the inaugural year of the Outside Lands Music Festival in San Francisco, which was a disaster. Like, the sound was cutting out on shows. Radiohead could barely perform because the amplification died multiple times. But I got to see like the Black Keys and the Dynamites featuring Charles Walker and a bunch of just great bands. And I was with Julie, who was just a friend at the time and is now my wife. So like, yeah, absolutely my best show.
Did you see Bad Religion at that Warped Tour?
I did. I don't remember, but it doesn't.
I have two more, and then I'm going to shut up.
We can't go all night on this one.
I know.
There's a lot more music questions coming.
I could do it for hundreds, but I will say I saw Bad Religion in college at the Haunt, which is like this tiny little place, and it blew my mind. What I was going to say is you just said the Black Keys, and this is just an aside. I saw them in Portland, Maine in 2012 on the El Camino. No, it wasn't El Camino. It was just after that. Anyway, I read later that they put that show, they mentioned in Rolling Stone, like that was the best show we ever played in Portland, Maine for some reason. I don't know why. And then they just released like a 10-year El Camino version, and they threw on a vinyl copy of that Portland, Maine concert because they thought it was so good. And so I bought it because I was like, oh my God, that was
awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Josh, read question 3.
Question 3 is Stephen B. from Maryland. What is the perfect snack combo? I've been thinking about this since viewing 2012's Mike and Tom Eat Snacks, episode 52, RC Cola and Moon Pie. This is
so. First up, I have to tell Steven, Mike and Tom Eat Snacks is back. Mates is back. I texted Connor and Josh about it because all right. This is true story. I never unsubscribed to the feed.
Yeah, I didn't either. It just popped back up on my feed.
Okay, so love Mike and Tom.
Although we listened to one episode on the drive to the wedding last weekend, and there were 7 ads in it. Guys,
I really was I only listened to one of them and I was like, get to the fucking snack.
They don't. That's not the point.
They don't. That's not the point of the show.
No, I know, but I want the jokes about the snacks. I like the snack jokes.
Half the show is the pre-show, and then the half.
I feel like that part got longer.
Yeah, it totally did. But that's shows evolve. Let's talk about snacks.
This is subjective, right? This isn't objective.
100%. It's all subjective. The snack I often think about the most, and I don't know if this counts as a snack, but it's the thing I think about the most from childhood is I would go to H&H Bagels on 79th and Broadway, 78th and Broadway, around there, 80th and Broadway, and get a hot bagel right out of the oven and get a quick chocolate milk, and I would Janelli those. Take a bite of the bagel, drink some of the chocolate milk.
But you're raw dogging that chocolate milk, though.
And it was that's the snack I think about the most. I realize maybe bagel's not really sort of a snack, but
no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's completely valid. It's also extremely New York City.
Yeah. And then I had a pizza at Mugda Lady. It was the 80s.
While enjoying a nice vial of crack.
Mm-hmm. Then we did crack together. Go ahead.
So you've been stabbed.
Get out of the way.
Ryan, do you
Josh,
have
Ryan, who's somebody else?
Ryan.
RC Cola and Moon Pie is not a bad combo for the number 1 spot. Growing up in West Virginia, pepperoni rolls are a big thing, and RC Cola is also not an uncommon thing. I'm having a hard time thinking of a combo. I can think of a lot of like individual snacks that I like. but I'm having a hard time thinking of a combo snack that goes well together.
Well, for me, there's a thing that my family makes this supercharged version of Chex Mix. They call it Stuff and Clutter. Don't really know why. It's got a lot of garlic and Worcestershire sauce.
My father-in-law makes his own Chex Mix, and it's delicious.
It's crazy. Like, my wife won't go near it because she's like, it smells like fucking rocket fuel, and it is my favorite thing on earth. I will eat a gallon of it. That with a cold Pepsi is my favorite thing on earth.
His Chex Mix is so beloved in the family that one year he gave out tubs of it for Christmas, and everyone was thrilled.
Yeah,
like normally he'd be like, "Thanks for the Chex Mix for Christmas," but everyone was like, "Yes." It's
the stuff that my mom makes, and it's been passed down. Like, there's literally a yellowed piece of paper that has existed since the 60s that has the recipe on it. I tried to make it once. I failed. It didn't work. You know what's a nice Gianelli? Either Pepsi or Coke and Sour Patch Kids. I mean, that'll fuck you up. You can't handle it. But I used to love that when I was a kid. I was like, woo!
Let's go to Chandler C from California. Chandler says, I've been thinking about this for the last 5 minutes or so, which I feel like we shouldn't allow, but we will allow it. Y'all are always talking about what the best older Vertigo titles are, but what are the worst older Vertigo titles?
It's weird, though, because the fact that they're not good is because they're forgettable.
Oh, my God, I didn't change the banner. I mean, like, I don't remember them.
Yeah, that really is, like, I'm trying to think.
I think the one that the people talked about the most, including Josh, that I never could get into enough to finish was 100 Bullets.
I mean, a lot of people, that's most people's journey, I think, on that book.
But like, I wouldn't call that a bad comic. Like, Brian Azzarello.
I think it got no. I mean, I think that Azzarello suffers from a lot of the same thing that Hickman does for me. Is that it starts off really strong, and then it doesn't seem to go anywhere. And the thing with 100 Bullets was, I don't think that should have been a 100-issue series. Like, around 15,
but it makes sense
16.
when you think about the title. Because Josh, I don't know if you noticed this, but 100 is in the title.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. You know what? I just looked up a couple of things just to try to jog my memory. Fables fell off a cliff.
Well, that went the full run.
I know.
There's spin-offs to Fables too, but and I actually thought most of the spin-offs were strong. But
Jack of Fables was great, but everything after the first ending, I couldn't hang on.
Yeah. Josh, did you get the Big B book this week?
I didn't read it yet, but
I got it, but I haven't read it yet either.
I was kind of hoping that'd be the pick.
I follow Bill on Twitter. You know, Bill and I are old friends from way back, and he was tweeting me like, "Why is my book out on a Tuesday?" Like, he's so out of the loop that he wasn't fully aware that DC Comics now come out on Tuesday. And
there's tons that I just can't think of because I remember reading them for the show and being like, that was nothing.
If anything, I think there are more Vertigo titles that we talked about a lot back in the day that we don't talk about as much now, but are still good. Like, do you guys remember Exterminators?
Yeah,
great.
Simon
Oliver and what's his name?
Tony Moore.
Tony Moore. Yeah.
And then, I mean, like, people don't talk about the Invisibles much anymore. I feel like maybe with another Matrix movie coming out, that'll maybe get some play again.
No, that was a fertile time. We all know it. It was the beginning of the show. And we're going to get to some bits later when people talk about books throughout. But I just don't remember the bad ones. There's no time for it or space.
There definitely were. I think that you'd pick something up because you liked something you did on one thing and it was another, but I don't remember them. I mean, and also you don't find, like, I just looked, you don't find like worst of Vertigo lists. Right. You see a lot of best of, and I just actually clicked on one and I was like, no, I liked all those series. Like, I was a shill for the company. So,
Josh, next email,
which would be number
5.
Patrick K. Patrick K. If you could go back to any decade and relive all the comics that were coming out then, what would you choose and why? I've been thinking about this since I missed out on all those wonderful comics that came out during the 60s and 70s. I mean,
I thought about it, and I think it would be fun to be there in the 60s for the Marvel Revolution, but I don't know that we'd have the context to enjoy it as much.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
I think the time that we grew up in, it was the best time to be growing up with the 80s comics that were still Bronze Agey and fun as kids, and then to mature into them as the comics matured, and then to be adults doing this show and the website in the 2000s when I thought, their comics were incredible. I think this was the best time that I could think of from an arc point, from a lifetime arc point of view.
Sure.
Starting in the 80s in the Bronze Age and maturing into
it's because everyone making
modern
comics
age.
is our age. So
yeah, but I think that's the best arc. I
mean, like the best era. I didn't live in the 60s and 70s or 50s. I wasn't around for it, but after the crash into the first half of the 2000s, I mean, there's so many just classics, things that are, and we were at the right age and the right place for all that, and the internet was coming, but I mean, that's the best I'd seen in a long, in my life.
I mean, Mike Roma and I have talked about this, and Mike Roma and I are just diehards for the era where iFanboy was at its, most content producing. I'm not going to say peak.
Yep.
But most content producing.
2010.
Yeah, like that era of comics. I think just because I was so actively involved in the scene, I got to talk to Mike Roma more often than I get to talk to him now. All those things, that to me is the time I would want to relive. It's funny. I have like
nostalgia for it.
Nostalgia for the sorry to my editors who happen to be on the show, but there were mornings I woke up and I didn't have a column written, but like I would just grab my laptop still in bed, just crank something out, and you probably could tell that that's what I was doing. But at the same time, it was like super fun. It was frenetic, it was kinetic, it was all the ethics that you could apply to that period of time. It was great.
I agree. Ryan, read the next question.
Number 6, Nick P. from Luxembourg by way of Newport Beach, California.
Whoa.
I joined as a patron on day 1 at the minimal level for a superpower. I have never increased my patron support nor let it lapse. And while I appreciate you thinking of new levels, a TV wrap-up just isn't getting me excited. Therefore, I submit one suggestion to you and to the listeners/patrons/viewers. We know they're not viewers, which would definitely make me increase my support. A monthly all comic book discussion email show. One of my favorite segments from the PFW, from the pick of the week, is the emails, and it is understandable that you run out of time. However, a monthly all email show would be great. An hour answering emails would lead to amazing discussion about the state of the industry, titles you don't discuss on your regular show, and trades collections discussion. And I think it could fit into your existing format. End of email, no sign off, no question mark, the end.
Well, we edit them. All right, so I think it sounds like a good idea on paper.
Yeah.
I think the idea of different levels isn't to make you increase your support. I'm talking out of school or whatever, but like it's about like trying to get more people to buy in to the idea. I think if you're there, you're the person who's been doing it forever, and you're fine. Like that's great. Thank you. That's awesome. And we want to keep you happy, definitely for sure. But the thing about the email show is twofold. One, it depends on email. Now we can do this thing once a year and have people send in a bunch of stuff, but on a week-to-week basis, we don't always have a good email to pick from. And I don't mean we don't have any.
Not true. We wouldn't have enough to do a whole show on it.
No, we'd have to like. No, there is, but there's weeks where like these are okay. I got one good one, that really like sort of fit into the kind of thing when you talk about. And then the other side of that being like, there might be too much of us talking about those things freeform.
It's like I was not a fan of doing the media split shows because I thought it steps on the end of the year show, and I wouldn't be necessarily a fan of doing the monthly email show because I feel like it steps on the specialness of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
What's fun about these is that they come out all once a year.
Yeah,
we do this once a year.
In my perspective as an intermediary is, the TV wrap-up show, you've been very clear that you're only doing it for shows you would watch anyway. So it's
right, but we're not doing them at all now. And people, it's literally the number one thing people ask us for is when you're doing a show on this show.
It's only extra work in that you have to record an episode about it, and you're having a discussion with your friends that you would probably have anyway, but you just have to record it and edit it and put it out there. Whereas doing an all email show, to me, that seems like a different tier of work to actually produce than the.
It's not necessarily more or less work.
No, okay.
If anything. Yeah. I like the free form of the Hangouts where people ask stuff and we sort of go off on that for a little while. I find that to be fun.
Yeah. Let's move on to Nick P. from Folkestone, United Kingdom.
Well, we just did Nick P. from Luxembourg. How many Nick P's are we going to do in a row here, Connor?
I don't know. That's how they came in. I've been thinking about this question on and off for about 30 years.
Jesus.
How fast does Superman age? Or more specifically, what's your preferred interpretation of how he ages? Nearly every version of the character has shown him having a relatively normal childhood in terms of getting older. So then when he moves to the Metropolis, he's always in his mid-20s so far, so normal. But then there's quite a few stories showing Clark way in the future, including the recent book which focused on all his kids. So my question is, at what point does he start to age slower? Do we think it's a thing where the older he gets, the longer it takes for him to age? So he hits 50 and suddenly it takes him 2.5 years to hit 51. I think that makes sense. Personally, I like the idea of Clark being around forever. I think it adds a sense of melancholy to him that he can't escape. But then I'm also a fan of how he's portrayed in something like Kingdom Come, where he basically ages like a normal dude. What do you think? I know it's kind of moot, as he's never going to be allowed to age past 35 anyway, but I don't think he ages normally in Kingdom Come. He's got a slight streak of silver where everybody else is elderly.
Yeah, it must be terrible.
Like he looks like Ryan, whereas Bruce is like, hobbling around. He's definitely ages slower in Kingdom Come.
I think Superman ages 1 to 2 years for every 10 years of Earth time.
I mean, I think it's one of those things. Like I like that there's not really a rule. I like that it's kind of whatever is the story is dependent. Although I do disagree with one thing in there that they said, like he's just perpetually like 20, 25. And I think when I was a kid that made sense. But now when I look at a 25-year-old, they look like children.
Yeah, he
and
was
so
never 25.
Superman has to be in his early 30s for anybody to even start to take him seriously.
He was 28 in the Silver Age, back when a 28-year-old looked like Don Draper.
Right.
But now he's sort of like, they have him as like 35, 33.
So I heard an interesting thing recently, Josh, and I haven't looked into the science of it to see if it's 100% true, but it passes muster on my smell test of a thing that makes sense to me, and it's that from a psychological perspective, the reason that the thing you just said happens is that we don't ever perceive ourselves as aging. Therefore, we always perceive ourselves as like, you're still a 25-year-old. You're just trapped in whatever version of yourself you're in at the moment.
Sure.
Therefore, instead of perceiving yourself as older, you perceive all 25-year-olds as younger than you were when you were 25.
Time is all relative. It's all relative.
I see what you're saying in that there's element of truth to it, but I can also recognize that when I was 25, I was full of shit.
Sure, but like you often hear somebody say, "Look at they look like children now," and like
But I did look like a child then. I looked like a child until about 8 months ago.
You didn't think about it though.
I did too. Are you kidding me? I was 22 years old in Los Angeles. I really wanted to meet girls, and I looked like I was prepubescent. I thought very much about it. I was like, "Hey, girl."
Time is a construct anyway.
Yeah, I guess so.
I do like the idea of Clark aging. I like the idea of him aging slowly.
Yes. He needs to age slowly. He needs to be. I like the melancholiness of it. I like all that stuff.
I do. I like a story, and you got to remember this is also it's a visual medium. So usually you're using the shorthand of like his gray at the temples or his whatever to show him as looking a little bit older. That gives you that different perspective on it right away. And I like that. I like the idea that he never gets more powerful but he's wizened. I like the idea of that sort of mature Superman wherever they need to use it. And I don't tend to get hung up on it very much.
Also, they smoked back then, made him look older.
Well, I mean, that's actually what I thought you were going to talk about, Ryan, because to me, like, whenever you see, like, you'll watch a movie from when you're a kid and you go, that guy's 15 years younger than I am right now. Like, people just looked older sooner in the past that they don't now. I mean, I'm not like, I don't think I look like a little kid, but I do not look like what I thought a 45-year-old person looked like when I was younger. Like, I don't know what happened. I think we're all in arrested development, but I'm going to keep dressing like a teenager as long as I can.
Ryan, under 10.
Oh, we're going to... Okay. Steve S. There are a small handful of writers who have gotten the opportunity to shape the larger storylines going on in Marvel and DC. Jeff Johns, Brian Michael Bendis, Jason Aaron, and Hickman in the current X-Men universe. Which creators would you like to see shape the universes of the big two who have not yet been given the opportunity? I've been thinking about this since at least Jeff Johns' Blackest Night. And in scanning ahead on that email, trying to anticipate where I was going, I saw the word Blackest, and I read it as blankets, and I thought I was going to say Craig Thompson's Blankets, and I think a Craig Thompson
that's outside the box. Outside the box thinking.
Of the DC or Marvel universe would be quite the thing to see.
I think it's clear that we're in like a stagnation where there's a lot of the same people writing books that they've been writing for like 10, 15 years. Not the same books, but the same universe. Like Jason Aaron's been writing Marvel books since however long he's been writing them. And I don't know that the new people that have come up are all that exciting. I think no one would be surprised to know that I think Tom Taylor should get more of a reign in DC than he's got.
I would do, Tom Taylor for DC, and I think Donny Cates is ready for some big swings at Marvel.
I think Donny Cates exists in a very odd corner of the Marvel universe where I think he's really good at and fun, but I don't know that he's mainstream enough.
But who else is? I mean, it almost feels like that era is over.
The Donny Cates era?
No, the era of one person coming in and steering the ship for a minute.
That's over. Long Tail has destroyed that as an idea because there's
the Bendis Johns era is over.
Yeah, and there isn't going to be. And I wonder about this a lot if I don't like a lot of the newer guys because I'm from a different time. Like, that's not what I came. But I don't think that's
You're a time traveler?
No, I just mean, like,
so
we
much.
came up with, like, we went through our stuff. Nothing's ever going to hit us the way that, Rucka, Bendis, Brubaker did when we were that age. But at the same time, I truly think, like, the work that they're being done is not up to the level of the work that was being done in the early 2000s. It's just, it's not. It's not as interesting. It's not as innovative. I do think that they're
not as free as they were then.
Yeah. Well, also there's no reward for being inventive and for sort of like there's no,
because they're not as free. They don't have the free reign. Yeah. They've got corporate bosses now who put their boot down on them.
Maybe
Marvel had nothing. That's why you had Marvel Knights.
Even in the creator-owned stuff that I read, you're not getting blown away by anybody.
That's right now, yeah. We did 5 years ago.
Yeah, but it's like it's happening less and less. I think I don't know. I don't know if those people that have those kind of minds like I get most attracted to are just not coming to comics, or they're not getting their shot, or I just like something that is out of fashion. I don't know. I find it really interesting, but I don't think you think like, will comics ever have another Alan Moore? I don't think so.
Well, Alan Moore didn't ever shape the universe.
Yeah, but he left.
He shaped a medium, but didn't.
That's what I'm. Well, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not even. Yeah.
He's talking about like the guy whose books all sort of shape the stories. Like Bendis is running Marvel and Johns was running DC in terms of.
There's a guy, Kevin Feige.
That's why all the costumes have extra lines now.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking true. All right,
you can tie all of the movies to why the costumes have extra lines.
Let's take a quick break here and talk about second print comics. The world of comics, characters, and universes shattering continuity can get a little complicated. So where's the best place to start? Our friends at Second Print Comics Podcast have you covered. From the viewpoint of two different comic book generations, Mark Clare from the early 90s and Remzo Martinez from the mid-2000s bring you deep dives each and every Wednesday into the stories, characters, and events that inspire their comic book fandom. So this is a show hosted by Time Travelers. Time Travelers is the theme of this episode. Covering every publisher from Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, and everything in between. Whether you're a comic book newbie or a seasoned collector, this is the best show to revitalize your fanhood. And remember why you became a comic book addict to begin with. Subscribe today on your favorite podcatcher, or head over to secondprintcomics.com. And you too can, as Mark and Remso say, read comics and change the world. They should put that on a t-shirt. Plus, they're on Patreon and have a special offer for iFanboy patrons. So those of you in iFanboy faithful, check Patreon for details for your special offer. That offer went through this week. So if you're a patron, you have seen it. But the basic deal is this. Any iFanboy patron signs up for the SBC Patreon and will receive 1 month free at whatever level they choose to join at. After they sign up, they can simply message the code iFanboy to us on Patreon. We'll issue a refund for the first month. This will give them access to all of our bonus content, including some of the Remso rants, the Random Marvel Comics podcast, Remso versus the MCU, Tales from the Fuck It Pile, recaps of every Marvel Disney Plus show, and so much more, all for as little as $5 a month. Go to secondprintcomics.com or subscribe where you listen to podcasts. Thanks to Second Print Comics. Let's do Francisco. Sent 3 questions in. Let's do his first question, Josh.
So just going to read the question, not the preamble. I'm going to read the preamble because it's kind
of... Well, the preamble's in there because it relates to the question.
All right. I recently started to go back and listen to the Pick of the Week catalog. This is my first episode. I'm now up to episode 244, and I've really enjoyed going through this mini journey through time, and I've also enjoyed comparing these shows to the ones you do now. Personally, I think that the shows you do now are even better than the ones that you did back then. Question 1, how would you say your approaches to the podcast have changed over the years? Connor, would you like to...
The show definitely changes. It's like a living organism. It's like it just morphs and grows and changes. And like if you go back, I think we were sillier with Ron more often. There was more often because you would really like making him laugh, so you would try to make him laugh all the time.
Yes.
And so that would lead to more.
That was a shortcut
tangents,
to entertainment. Yes.
And more bits. Whereas I think you and I do fewer bits, but spend more time. Jimsky in the chat room says they drink more, so we should kick him out of the chat room. No judgments, Jimsky.
There used to be more rusty auto parts in the show.
Yeah, I mean, you and I think the show is fun and funny, and I enjoy listening to it when I'm like editing it. But I think that we were goofier back then.
So that's sort of true, and I know what you're saying because yes, I would absolutely just try to get Ron to laugh, and I'd be like, "There you go, instant entertainment."
He's got a good laugh,
and that would be if I could get him to laugh. Then I would figured, well, if he's laughing, then somebody else is probably having a good time too. You don't have the same kind of sense of humor as him, and I don't know how to crack you up in exactly the same way. I know when I've got my moment. I know when I see it and I can go after it, but it's not the same.
I mean, I remember back then, like on the show, laughing to the point of tears because we would all get going with each other.
That hurts my feelings.
No, but just because we would all get going in like a circle.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen. It's just a different show. We're more like, I want to say deeper dive on the medium, but like we're just more, it's just different. The show changes and grows as we.
First of all, if I could just say, if you tell me, if he's telling me I think the shows you do now are even better than the ones you did back then, I think that's a massive compliment. That should be what's happening. God forbid that we're like, well, they used to be better. I don't want to hear that. I think at some point when Connor and I decided to just stay with the two of us, we did I know you said it was goofier, but we did adopt a looseness, I think, that helped us for a while. And we started to we felt comfortable and confident that we could fill the time and really just went with whatever was happening. But
Goodfellas Minute helped us too because we were much in this show is pretty regimented. We have a script, we have a rundown, we have segments. Goodfellas Minute was like basically unfocused. So we had to talk our way through it, and I think that led to us being everything lasts for a little while, and then you move on and.
Right, and what's interesting to me is like Ron was sort of a podcast mentor to me when I was starting my own show, and not that the two of you haven't been helpful at any moment I've needed advice or whatever, but Ron truly was like somebody I would go to for technical grit, down in the dirt, sort of help me figure out this thing. And his philosophy of podcasting is just, I think, a little bit different than when it's just the two jamokes. Like he has an idea about podcasting that is slightly distinct from the way that the two of you just naturally have evolved to do the show when it's just the two of you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either approach. It's just there is a difference.
It also depends on who's hosting. Like it's a different show when it was me, Josh, and Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I just
recently listened to the Josh and Jim Fiscardi show.
Yeah,
and like that's great. Like the dynamic is totally different, and it's wonderful. It was a delight to listen to use a Ron phrase.
It's just. I think the personalities will inform it, and then it grows and changes on its own depending on what we're into.
I like
when
to
we
say
got
about,
we got into mates really heavily, which we talked about earlier. Yeah. The show got really goofy for a while, for like a month, because we really liked their tangents, and then we just.
I totally think that the shows that I've been listening to most recently and really been into affect the way that I also perform on a podcast.
Can't help it.
And
yes.
I think one thing I say about my own show that I think applies here as well is that, you do your best to like intelligently design a show, to make segments that make sense, to make a format that makes sense, but then you have to just let it evolve. You have to let it progress and grow naturally.
It's a living, breathing organism.
Exactly. And if you are restrictive to that, if you are resistant to that, I think things become stale. Like if you guys were still just coming on every week and being like rich people, like the audience wouldn't be here. Because
I don't think about it. I think one thing that set us apart early on, at least in the beginning, was that we came at it from production backgrounds. Like Josh and I worked in TV at the time.
Yeah.
So like we've always had a script. We've always had a rundown. Not always had a rundown. We didn't start with a rundown. We only had 4 books in the beginning. Like it wasn't that many. But once the show got more in depth and longer, we had a rundown. We had a script. We've tried to keep to a format. We try to treat it like a production rather than just turning a mic on and talking, which is a lot of shows were doing in the beginning.
I think one other thing, and this is it is self-aggrandizing. I'm not even going to make an excuse for it. Connor and I think more than anything, have really gotten into the idea of really thinking about the books and what works and what doesn't and why and how and the craft. And I think at this point, we both have a real confidence about those opinions that we could not have had earlier on. But we've had enough validation over the year to be like, I'm as good at this as anybody. And I don't mean that, from loyal, but but I know because I've had people tell me and I've had them listed for however many years, and I've talked to comic book pros, and I get this. I understand this, and I understand, what's an opinion and what isn't, and it means that when we start talking about a book and we really want to think about it, we can get in there, and then we learn something at the same time, and then somebody else learns something so they can enjoy their thing more. I love that part. So I want it to be funny, but I want to do that other part too, and that's a tough balance, and I think that we hit it a lot of times, and I'm very proud.
I mean, do we go too long on the underwear ads? Yes.
Do we really like that underwear?
Fun? Do we have fun? Do we really like the underwear? Also, yes.
Yeah. Wearing it right now, but the final pin I would put in what you just said, Josh, is a thing that I think struck me about the show early on and has remained persistent, if not improved over the years, is when a book sucks and you guys decide to talk about it, you talk about it for a reason. You're never bashing a thing just to bash it. You're talking about it because there's a thing that's worth talking about in your discussion of it. And then the Century slept with the Rogue, so I don't know what else to say because Connor's about to give me the bell.
I was about to bell the question.
Thank you.
There's something else I was going to say, but I can't think. Oh, I think Josh. I'm willing to get like stupid and goofy on the show. That's the role I've taken into. Like, I think
people who get stupid and goofy often say about themselves.
I don't care about being like coming off like a dummy. Like, I'll make a dumb joke to get you laughing. All right, Adrian Z says,
old time.
Who do you think is the most important character in the Star Wars saga aside from Wedge? Obviously,
Luke.
The best part about it is like, obviously. Like I was gonna think about it for a second, and then you just said Luke like it's a joke, and I was like, yeah, it's Luke. Like, there's nowhere to go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say R2-D2 because he's the one that carries the plans of the Death Star. Without him, there's no, they don't win. But
it's Luke.
It's Luke. It's called the Skywalker Saga.
Here's the thing about Star Wars: you can read deeply into it, and you can have fun with it. There's no deep reading of Star Wars.
It's Luke.
Because the man who thought up Star Wars did not put it there.
Yeah. No, it's a symbiote circle, Josh. You must.
A bunch of nerds and message boards try to put it there, but it's not there. It's Luke.
It isn't there. That. It is. Star Wars is exactly what you think it is. It's a nerdy dude who liked a lot of different kinds of movies and wasn't putting a lot of deepness into it, even though he kind of thought he was.
And I love Luke. I've always loved Luke. He's been my favorite character since I was a kid. I love Luke Skywalker.
Luke to me fits within a specific type of character that I have a ton of affection for. He's in the MacGyver mold. He's in the he's the character for whom violence is the last resort, and I think that's a really important kind of character to have in pop culture.
He's a warrior monk.
If you think about the kinds of people who became like Star Wars fans, like, if you're Connor and I's age, it used to be, freaks and geeks, like those were the Star Wars fans, and everybody went and saw it. But the people who hung on for a while, their hero, came up as it was Luke Skywalker, who wasn't that dashing.
Although I will say, as a kid, it was all about Han. Like all my friends were like, Han's the coolest, Luke sucks, and I was like, I kind of like Luke better.
But the fact is that, like, as you stuck with it, like that story is about him. So you're watching a kid who doesn't know where he fits in grow up.
A kid who just wanted some power converters. Just wanted to go to Tashi Station.
He just was trying to and like that is I'm undercutting everything I just said, but that's a big departure, that the hero of that biggest thing is not, a swashbuckler, is not Steve McQueen. He is, and then that plays into, then you go to Indiana Jones and it's kind of the same thing. He's flawed and he's
it's almost like
what if Steve McQueen did play Luke?
But it's almost like every time Luke is too big,
it would have been smoking in space.
It's almost like every time Luke gets too big for his britches, he gets shot down by the other heroic characters in the saga. Mm-hmm. So he's the guy who's Han has his moment where he comes back to the Death Star battle, and that's his hero turn where he realizes the rebellion's more important than his smuggling operation. But like, Luke is constantly trying to figure out how to be a hero, and he stumbles through that entire 3-film series to get to the point where he's like, even in the beginning of Jedi,
he is the classic hero's journey.
He's way overconfident in his abilities to get him and his friends out of that situation. And so, like one of my favorite moments, I was thinking about this earlier today, I was reviewing text messages with you, Josh, for a different purpose. But like that whole thing where, Han asked Luke in Jedi, like, how are things going? And he goes, oh, same as usual. And Han goes, well, that bad, huh? And like, that's...
Yeah.
It's the brilliance of Star Wars. It's the brilliance of Star Wars.
The other thing that occurs to me is that, like, we can say, oh, Han was whatever. But Han's whole thing, it starts most in the beginning, is it's a facade. It's bullshit. And as you go through the whole thing, that falls away with the people that he's comfortable with. And then Luke tries to build that up. But he's ahead of it. Like, neither of those are the typical, I've got everything in hand heroes. Mm-hmm. I never thought about this until this exact moment that I started talking about it.
Well, we know the answer, Adrian, is Lobot. Let's move on to Evan C. Josh, read Evan C's question.
This question occurred recently to me during Josh's solo show, where he discussed Moon Knight and how exhausting it has been to see the character redone so many times. My question is, when do you think reboots, refreshes are justified? Does it only work after a big story when it hasn't happened in a while? Never. Spidey and Batman don't reboot, but others do all the time. I'm just excited to see a character like Moon Knight, but depending on experience, everyone gets a different take of these characters. It's a good question. I've never heard this question.
Spider-Man. Oh, first of all, Spider-Man did reboot. It was quite controversial.
Right.
One more day.
It split the fan base in half.
Spider-Man and Batman do get reinvented, but it tends to be a slower process. Yeah. It's happening all the time.
And we're about to see Spider-Man do that in the films, I think.
Batman, don't talk about it. I haven't seen any trailers. I don't know anything about it. But Batman sort of defies rebooting. Like when Crisis happened, he didn't really get rebooted. It didn't really happen. The story kept going as if nothing had happened, and the only thing that changed was the Robins changed. And then in New 52, he didn't really get rebooted. He got aged down a little bit, but didn't really change.
But there's been a little bit of, like, I know what you're saying, it's true, but the sort of world around what he's about changes. So for a while, he was the grim and gritty guy on his own. And then he's the dad of a big family, but he's, reticent with his feelings. Like, it's this constant sort of evolution that changes over time. As opposed to all new Moon Knight, which is to make an event of it.
Moon Knight's a special case where they just don't seem to know what the hell to do with Moon Knight. I like Moon Knight.
The Hawkman.
Well,
even worse.
In that point, I think. When do you think that? Well,
I think Hooper.
It's the Richard Dreyfuss Moon Knight that came to you in 1974.
Mark Spector, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute.
Nothing until you see the whites of the Moon Knight's eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Don't take us down this road. We'll go down it.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull up. Red Leader.
Yeah, pull up.
So was saying.
The question is, reboots, refreshes, and there's almost like a continuity baggage here that has to be ignored for a reboot, refresh to even happen. So like characters that are more recent are more recent and or less important. Like, I'm not going to say that Moon Knight is less important than Spider-Man, but
he is. Most characters are less important than Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man's one of the greats.
He's on the masthead.
So I think
he's on their checks.
They are. Spider-Man is on their checks because I have my first check from Marvel and it's got Spider-Man on it, and I've saved that. So for me, I think about the character's recency and importance matters in how successfully rebooted they can be. So I think about something like Warren Ellis's recently redone The Wildstorm was a pretty successful reboot / refresh of the Wildstorm Authority era characters that he mostly created during Stormwatch and the Authority. And
successful, I even think about
that it was
good,
interesting, and different. It wasn't a rehash; it was a reboot / refresh.
It didn't live on. It was just for his miniseries that he did.
Versions, yeah.
No, I don't even mean that. But like, he did this story; it was great, and whenever those characters show up again, it might be influenced that, but nobody gives a shit.
But I haven't been on the show to talk about the Superman and the Authority show, the Superman and the Authority comic that Grant Morrison's doing, and I think that's doing a similar thing.
Oh.
Like, the Midnighter and Apollo that is in that comic are recognizable to me as a person who read the Authority when it was first coming out, but it does feel like a refreshed version of them.
Neither one of you guys read this week's books other than the 2 books we talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I basically had an aneurysm this week reading Superman books because there's a whole thing about the Authority characters and how it ties into that book and how it doesn't make any sense. And we have a T-shirt for it.
I don't want to read that.
Also, Superman went off to space twice in 2 books this week in 2 different ways in 2 different scenes.
How's he going to breathe?
How old was he?
I don't want to talk about it. I know I brought it up. I don't want to talk about it. I think a reboot is justified when it's too convoluted and no one knows what to do with the character. No one knows, like Jeff Johns' famous thing was like, what is the essence of the character in one word? Mm-hmm. And if you can't think of that because the character's too muddled, then they got to reboot.
So what's Hawkman's one word?
Confusing.
Fucking disaster. It's like he's still messed up, but or it's just Moon Knight's weird because of the multiple personality portion of the character. You can play with that. I don't think that necessarily this version of Moon Knight's all that different than the last one we read.
No, it's almost like the tone of the books is different. Is more the problem. Yeah. So as we went from the Max Bemis stuff into the Jed McKay stuff, and that was from the Brian Wood, and
it's all.
It's just been a very different book each time. So there's even if the character is basically the same, there's no continuity through that, and so you kind of don't know what to expect when you read the book, and not in a good way. You know what I think a relatively successful but low key one is Doctor Strange.
Yes.
However they did it, I think it was Jason Aaron who started it with Chris Bacalo, and it was
God, that was a good book.
Strange comes back and it's about the cost of magic, and they've kind of been going with that theme since then, and really have put more life into the character than he's had for a long time. And I actually don't think it had a hell of a lot to do with the movie version, which is pretty unique. It got the spotlight because of the movie version, but that character that is the longest I have seen a consecutive Doctor Strange story continue for years and years and years in the entire time we've been doing this show.
Yeah.
But I think one of the key differences between Doctor Strange and Moon Knight is Doctor Strange plays, and this is the last thing I'll say on the topic, Doctor Strange plays a very clear role in the grand picture of the Marvel Universe. He is the Sorcerer Supreme. He has
but he did it for years.
That people come to.
His role was to show up at big events and do the magic bits.
Whereas, like, Moon Knight's not that character. Moon Knight is like if the Defenders need like a substitute. Like, what's Moon Knight's role in the Marvel Universe?
So his Doctor Strange was persona non grata for years. Like, he was there, they'd bring him in, but he couldn't hold a series. He couldn't.
But the point is, like, he has a role. Like, if Doctor Strange showed up, you're like, oh shit, there's some serious magic-y bit that needs to happen. Whereas Moon Knight's like, what does he do?
Well, I mean, the problem
he could be interchanged with Daredevil. There's no one difference here.
I think the thing about Moon Knight is that we are discovering over and over he has no role.
I like him though. I do. I read all of
that's different. You can like him, and I can like him, whatever. But like, if you took Moon Knight out of the Marvel universe and never mention again, people might say, "Hey, what happened to that? I kind of like that," but nothing would be missing.
Well, because he's not an A-list character. But when Oscar Isaac plays him, he will be.
Oh, right, because that worked for Apocalypse.
Well, that was terrible. You couldn't tell it was Oscar Isaac then anyway. Let's read Ryan Reed number 16.
Wilfred from Anaheim, California. One of the better peppers out there at the Anaheim, Chile. It's a great pepper. What is your least favorite genre in each of the following? Music, TV/film.
Nope. That's the wrong question. 16.
Sorry. Wilfred from Anaheim, California. I love the Makes Comics podcast when it was still going on, and I often wonder what it would be like if the show had continued. Were there any plans to expand it? Topics you meant to cover? I've been thinking about this since 2018.
No.
Josh, hold on. Give people context, Josh. This is a long time ago.
Yeah, so I did a show called the Make Comics podcast with Andy Schmidt, who is a friend of mine, and he runs a How to Make Comics school. Comics experience, and he was an editor at Marvel Comics in a very fertile time. A lot of what you like about Guardians of the Galaxy came from his office back then, and Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning and blah 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 blah. And I don't remember how we started doing it, but we started doing the show, and we would basically pick a topic and talk about how to effectively make comics or break into comics or have a career in comics or how you think about crafting comics, things like that. We did 50 episodes. And I can tell you that the last 10 or so of them got to be kind of a struggle in trying to find a new thing to think about.
There's only so many topics in that.
Yeah. And
it's
there's
a limited series, really.
One other thing going on then, I guess, is that period of time was the one that I was the most seriously attempting to make comics professionally. And I fell off of that for a bunch of reasons, largely just that, once my kid showed up, my life changed drastically and sort of the energy I had for that kind of thing kind of went away. And then the other side of it being that, like, I learned a lot about comics in the industry, and I thought this is kind of a long shot and not one that I necessarily valued as much. I liked a lot of the ideas of it, but I thought practically not so much. So my mind was in the right place at the time that we did that. I was, in it, and I was, talking to a guy who had been through it and knew, and, but it couldn't have gone on forever. It would have gotten so...
You run out of topics. You just run out of topics.
Yeah, and I think that the difference is, like, so now, that stuff all exists. I learned everything from that. It still
Where
comes
are
up.
The shows?
They
exists,
disappeared.
except you can't get it.
No, they're gone. I don't know where they are. I don't know why they're gone. I don't have them. They were a time.
It's the only show we ever did that we don't have them. They're not on our feed somewhere.
But it's...
Oh wait,
I mean, Josh, I think
Don't Miss is gone, isn't it? Too? Don't Miss is gone.
That's fine.
The thing, Josh, is that's like you produced a semester of content, right? Like in the college course scheme of things, which is my framing of how
I'm really proud of it. I love
educational. I listened to every single one of them, and they were great.
Thank
you. You made a semester of content. If you could listen back to those and make a syllabus from what you did, but like at a certain point, the semester ends and you reset and you teach the same class again because the new crop of students need the same material.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be on you, especially if you're just doing something that's meant to be like educational. It's unreasonable to ask you to produce the same content over again when the foundational material is out there and it just needs to be re-listened to by a new crop of people.
Except it isn't. I should do it again. Re-record it.
Someone wrote in and said they had them all, the files, and do we want them? Maybe
really?
We want them. They should.
We totally want that.
Back.
You know who wants those? Andy wants those. Andy's asked me, and I felt terrible.
If you wrote in and you were the person who wrote in saying I had the shows, I scratched my head. Now it's all red. You should definitely email us again because I think we do want those files. And actually, in the chat room, D Gold says he has them on a CD.
And
so we should try to get our hands on those.
No, we won't.
No, we're not going to pay you. This is a podcast about comic books.
Wait, I have one more last point. The show doesn't go on regularly anymore, but everything that I learned during that time and everything we talk about, it comes out all the time when we talk about that show. That's part of the building blocks of the way that we talk about comics now. And so in that way, that course is still going. We're just in a different version of it.
Adam from Orlando, Florida. This is for Josh.
Sorry.
Why does a person need 10 guitars? As a non-guitar person, I was a bit confused with the reveal in episode 797, and I have thought about this for the past 7 hours. I assume it's because each guitar has its own sound.
Sound, feel, aesthetic. There's all sorts of reasons. I have something like 10 electric guitars, and
every guitar has a personality in it. It's got its voice, and you're not necessarily getting the same. You don't want the same sound every time. You want a different sound.
And they make you play differently, and they feel different, and they have a different aesthetic. It's like, why do you wear 10?
Uh-oh.
Oh, no!
Josh crashed.
Where it's too many. Because you can't play them.
Josh, say that sentence over again because you froze.
I crashed. Yeah, I heard it.
It's like you started. Why do you wear 10 shoes? Just say that sentence again.
Why would you wear 10 different shirts? Because you don't want to look exactly the same and do exactly the same thing every day. So they each bring different things out of you. There's a point where there are too many, where you've got like 30 guitars. Like that's just hoarding.
Unless you're in a band, like my father, one of my father-in-laws has he's got like 40 guitars.
But you can't use them at that point, right?
You can, but the difference between hoarding and a collection is how you display it.
Yeah, if they're just cool on a wall, then that's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to, if you think about it, like say that a band does an album a year and each album has 12 songs on it. Like you can't use that many, and I don't like having things that I can't use. So I have just enough guitars that I can sort of pick any of them up and do a thing with them, and not so many that I would be like, oh, I haven't seen that one in 3 years. Like, I don't want that. I want things that I can use that do different things. That's but everybody's different. I have a cousin and he has dozens of guitars, and it like upsets me. It's way too many. And I hit like I said, all right, I do this one last kind of guitar, and that was it. I kind of stopped. I cover everything I need to cover.
Ryan, read 20.
Alex T from Minnesota. I have been thinking about this question since 12 Angry Batmen by Tom King. It's reinforced every episode, though. It seems to me that limited series are the future of comics, even though it's frustrating at times, because the authors can put together an arc rather than a story. I wonder if it's because all the ongoing stories about Batman or Spider-Man have been told so many times. So my question is, if most of the stories were like the best arcs, then should comics eliminate...
Wow, I'm not the drunk one. If most of the stories we like best are arcs.
If most of the stories we like best are arcs, then should we eliminate the ongoing series? Question mark.
He's not wrong theoretically in that, like, it feels like, you give a writer a book, he or she tells their story, and then they move on to another writer comes on. It doesn't happen in all the books, but it happens in a lot of the books. So not necessarily totally wrong, but I don't know that he's totally right either.
I mean, no, because it shouldn't be all one of anything. Like, don't eliminate ongoing series. They're awesome. But then sometimes limited series are also fun. Like, that's like if pizza's always better, why don't we eliminate burgers? Because
better for my arteries.
Because nobody wants the same thing all the time.
Variety's the spice of life.
And also, they're different creators are good at different things. There's great. There's amazing single issue story guys. There's amazing 12-issue, people. There's Dan Slott, who's just like, forever I will do this soap opera. God bless him,
The thing that's crazy to me is that, like, I know you guys have talked about this on the show before, how we transitioned from going to the 6-issue arc to the 5-issue arc. After already going from the 22-page issue to the 20-page issue, like, to me, that sort of shrinking of the narrative is more interesting than how the narrative is fundamentally structured, in a way that it's interesting to watch how authors and artists have to shape their stories to fit into smaller boxes.
Little boxes
made of ticky-tacky.
Yeah. You know what? From an economic standpoint, getting your money's worth, blah, 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 I get the problem, but I kind of like that they're giving people less space to do things because they really have to, like, stick to the thing that they're doing. 5 issues is often better than 6 issues. 6 issues but you know this for a while. Like, everyone was trying to make everything 6 issues long, and it didn't.
Not everything was 6 issues worth, but I think also it works the other way. Because
yes,
first we lost the extra pages. That basically brought us down an issue anyway. When you multiplied all the pages down, and then you lost another issue, so the story's really shorter now. I'm excited for this question. David H. from Brooklyn, New York. David says, I've been thinking about this question for 2 years. In the 1989 Batman film, a young Bruce Wayne exits the Monarch Theater with what looks like a near full bag of popcorn. In your expert opinions, did the Wayne family either A, watch an entire movie, leaving almost all the popcorn in the bag, or B, purchase a fresh bag of popcorn just before exiting the theater? If the answer is B, wouldn't stand a reason that the shooting might not have happened if the family had exited the theater a few minutes sooner. Wouldn't stand a reason the young Bruce Wayne's gluttony might have contributed to his parents' death. Perhaps Bruce keeps himself in top physical shape as an adult because he subconsciously knows that his popcorn indulgence got his parents killed.
Well, hold on. Why are you blaming the kid? Maybe the parents. Maybe like, I'm a dad who likes movie popcorn. So maybe he's like, hey, why don't you fill that bag up? And he's like, I don't really, just go fill it up. And he's just like, fine, I'll carry it. Maybe it's Thomas Wayne's own damn fault.
Have you ever filled up popcorn on the way out the theater?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to blame the guy with the gun who shot them and not anyone who was an innocent
He was asking for it. Okay. Yes, I've fulfilled on the way out. A couple of reasons. One, as I said before, I love movie popcorn. In fact, I might change my snack combo to a delicious movie beverage and warm hot buttered popcorn.
Is refilling your bag of popcorn before leaving the theater a thing?
Not really, but you can do it, and I've done it. Because...
Josh will find a way. He's like,
no. I have the AMC thing, and you get free refills, right? So you get a big bucket. You can take that home, and you can put it in a thing. It's just as good the next day. You can even kick in the microwave.
You know why it's just as good the next day? Because it's already several days old. I know,
but still good. I don't care.
Ryan, did you work in a movie theater?
No, I just am not an idiot, and it's I'm the kind of popcorn eater where it's like the popcorn bag starts full, and by the end of the previews, I'm 50% of the way through it.
Same.
And then, when the movie starts, I don't know a person who fills up the bag after leaving the theater. Maybe
now you do.
People
it's not. No.
Now you
it's
do.
Not always. I've just done it. I've done it because my kids like it, so I can bring home popcorn for them to have as a snack, and then I don't have to go buy some shit. I can and not think about it. I can say, "Hey, there's popcorn," and they don't fight about anything. They just eat the popcorn.
My mom's the kind of person who will buy the biggest bag of popcorn available at the movie, but bring her own napkins and distribute napkins to everybody to put on your lap so that she can then dole out.
I get the drink. The little cardboard box you put the drinks in. Sure. I get a couple of those. Then the kids each get a dollop from that. I don't want a bunch of hands in there all at once. It's too frenetic. Same idea, just a little cleaner.
It's a good word, frenetic.
Let's do 23, Josh.
I like that we didn't even attempt to answer that question.
Listen, they filled up on the way out.
No, they didn't.
They didn't?
No.
So they got popcorn and they didn't eat it the entire Mark of Zorro? Correct. It's a suspenseful film. Tyrone Power is terrific in it, and he makes you want to eat popcorn.
That's my take.
Here's what I think happened. You're thinking that they went and did a thing. I'm guessing these are the Waynes. People were just there with popcorn ready in case it got low. Like, don't let them see the bottom of this. So they're just
they're afraid of Alfred's wrath. You let the popcorn get low.
Like they had a bottomless popcorn tub, and
he's a vengeful billionaire, as we've learned in the recent comics.
And so, like, he was full the whole time. He's like, I don't know, I've been eating it. It just keeps. So and they're like, oh, before you go, here's another thing of popcorn. And he's like, okay, they're used to that kind of treatment. That's just what happens. That's probably most likely. Which question did you want me to read?
23.
Wes A. from Fridley, Minnesota says it's no secret that Image Comics have an issue of either long delays or just fading away. See Saga, Lazarus, Farmhand, etc. Farmhand
Lazarus
is not
fade away. Lazarus comes out regularly in quarterly fashion.
And Rob is working on the last part of Farmhand. He's been very updated. But regardless, I know what you're saying. It's true. Just those are not
Southern Bastards, etc.
I feel burned to the point where I won't pick up an Image book until it's announced that it's ending. This helps my wallet, but I miss reading good Image comics. I'm wondering how to resolve this. Should these creators just make shorter series, 12 to 20 issues? Should they go the Brubaker-Phillips route and just move to OGNs? What say you on this? Take a chance, pal. What are you going to do?
I think that some of them are too long, but I'm not the one who's going to tell a creator to make fewer books if it's selling and making them money. But clearly, some of the books could be half as long.
I'll tell you something. If you're not buying the issues when they come out, you are increasing the chances they will not finish those stories.
Well, unless they're OGNs like Brubaker, but very few people are Brubaker and Phillips who have a built-in fan base they can afford to do those OGNs.
And that's their milieu. Like that's what they do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as much the creator's fault, although it is to a certain extent, as it is the market too at the same time. The fade, you can have grand plans that you want to do a 50, 60 issue thing, but it's very rare that the market will support you through that whole thing.
Ever since Preacher, though, it's like the thing to do.
Yes.
Right? Is to have the 60 issue run. Like all those Vertigo series had like 60 issues. So I think that's still the mindset of a creator of a certain age.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, is most of them. That to do their epic run, they have to do 60 issues of Scalp, 60 issues of DMZ, 60 issues of Why the Last Man, 60 issues of Lucifer. All those books were heading for. They all want to hit 60 issues. I don't remember how long Black Science was, but it was in the 40s. Black Science could have been half as long.
Yes,
it could have had a few fewer missions into the random dimensions. Yep. But again, that's how they make their money. So it's like saying, stop going to work 3 days a week.
They also might doing it. They might have.
I
fun.
would too, Ryan.
I'm guessing if you're Rick Remender, you had a hell of a lot of fun doing those Black Science issues, and you're like, let's every time we get to think of a different thing and have a wacky adventure, and nobody thinks about Fantastic Four like that. Just keep going. I think there's some sort of combination. There's an alchemy happening all the time, and that's why you can't quite count on it, because I don't think people exactly know. There's a whole bunch of things that have to come together for that to work out. Vertigo, doing a 60-issue series, that shit was budgeted. It was pitched. It was, they said, oh, this is what it's going to be. And they knew ahead of time. Image is much more like you're on your own. It's a little bit of a high wire act. It's not the same thing. Now, I don't understand for the fucking life of me why they couldn't keep doing Saga. It doesn't make any sense to me.
There's got to be a story there. There has to be.
There has to be a story there because, I don't. Those issues weren't all that in depth. Like a Saga issue went fast, and they made a lot of money from them.
Brian K. Vaughan is a very breezy writer.
Mm-hmm. Not in a bad way.
Not always. No, not in a bad way at all.
There. It's not an insult. Not an insult. But like his issues. We've made the point multiple times on the show. Like he does a cliffhanger at the end of an issue better than anyone in the game. Mm-hmm. But like the time to get through 20 pages, we talk about this a lot. Like it writers are sort of responsible for how long it takes you to get through that 20 pages of the comic, and whatever the cost that is, that's your cost to time ratio. Is it a fair metric to judge comics by? Probably not, but it exists. It's part of the market. And Brian K. Vaughan, like his issues read fast, but they read very well.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, what's the proof on that drink you got?
It's high.
Yeah, apparently. Cornelius, he wrote in 2 questions. I'm gonna read the second one because I'm trying to think of the answer. I don't know the answer, so let's discuss. Cornelius says, when was the last time Josh, Connor, and Ron were physically in the same room together?
I don't know.
Was it Ron's wedding?
His was after yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was that the last time we were all in the same room together?
4 years ago.
Shit.
That's so sad.
Well, a year and a half of it was pandemic related.
That's true. And like the thing is this though. You asked me and I had to think about it because I still talk to these people. I actually talk to these people more than anyone else in my life that I don't live with. Sure. So it doesn't really feel like I haven't seen them in a long time because my relationship with my 2 good friends has been mostly virtual for long before the rest of the world got used.
Oh, froze again. Froze again, Ryan.
Do it. But
froze again, Josh.
I ain't froze.
I know. I'm freezing like every like regularly.
Just that gigabit. It's too many bits.
I got too many bits. I don't know why that is.
Are they streaming downstairs?
No.
It's 11 o'clock. There's not some late night streaming going on?
No, but even if there was, that's not the thing. It's this.
Is there a guy outside who cranks your generator?
Yeah. Phil?
What you were saying before you froze is correct. Like we talk all the time, every day. I was used to seeing you guys at least once a year,
yes.
At least separately. And I just saw Ron last week for the wedding we went to. But the 3 of us together is tough only because of the geography of it. But it was 4 years ago at the Josh, which is frankly bullshit.
I agree.
I fucked up this somehow, and I have the patrons here, but I'm going to move them down to later.
Really?
So I'll come back to the patrons' powers in a minute. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Okay.
Give me some
29. 29. Josh reads 29.
No, Scott. I got it. I want it.
Ryan's going to read it before he passes out.
Okay.
29. Scott D. I very much enjoyed your discussion about gin blossoms a couple of years ago. I'm 45. So you're approximately the same age as me, Ryan, 45-year-old. I always enjoy the music on the show, but who was your favorite, quote-unquote, generic 90s band? I have my answer ready to go.
I would like to hear it.
Hold on. Okay, tell us your answer, then I'm going to hold on it. Go ahead.
I mean, okay, Connor, it sounds like, do you have the time to listen to me rhyme?
Okay. Here's my question. I don't know what a generic band means.
I was actually having a hard time with that.
I'm going to modify his question.
I'm gonna say Green Day. Can I just say Green Day?
They're not generic.
Green Day was great. I saw them in Madison Square Garden.
No. They're not generic.
No, they were hugely important.
Generic were the people who stepped in for the void that Nirvana left behind, and they ushered in an entire era of punk music, actual direct hardcore punk music. Bush is a generic 90s band.
Well, hold on. Let me modify this question.
I do have a Machine Head.
This is more fun.
It's better than the rest.
Josh, what's the band that makes you think of the 90s? Like when you hear music, and I know you don't ever hear music you don't want to hear, unless you're like in a store, then you're hearing Bob Seger in New Hampshire. But if you hear a song or a band, what's the band? What makes you think? What brings you right back to college?
So my answer for this is going to be the same. My favorite generic band and the thing that I hear of is Everclear.
Oh, that's a good one.
Everclear is the thing that
I
can recognize. Like, it's not a great band.
No, but it makes. But yeah,
I kind of like it. Like, they keep touring, and I keep going, do I want to go see Everclear? And
I've heard they're terrible live. I heard that in the 90s when they were young.
It's like they're not great. Every song is kind of the same. The production isn't great. They're this close to being really good, but they're not quite there. They don't really fit into any of the things, so they sort of fit in all of the things. It's pretty great. He had the bleached hair. He was old but young.
Yeah. How old was he? Was he 45 or 25? I mean, I think you and I obviously have very different musical tastes, although there's lots of overlap. But
sure.
And I listen to music differently than you do. But on my car, I have the 90s station going all the time, and half of it is like, oh right, I was in the dorm when heard this. So like, there's tons of bands I think of that define music in college, and it isn't necessarily because I like them; it's because they were always playing. So like, we were in the peak of Dave Matthews at that time, and so like every party you went to, we were. Lauryn Hill's The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was like played at every party I went to junior year of college. I think of Goo Goo Dolls senior year of college. Like, it's just like that was the music that I hear, and I'm transported right back. Rusted Root. My roommates loved Rusted Root. They played it all the time.
Oh god!
I mean, you've got to send
me on my way. Send me on my way. I heard that song 400 times in that Circle apartment. Like that's that music.
Terrible.
Did I like it or not? It doesn't really matter. It just takes me back to being 19 again. And in a way, I kind of like it for that reason. So there's a lot of that music, and I've definitely reached that point in my life where I'm listening to the 90s station and remembering what it was like to be 20 again. Brian R. from Westchester.
Wait, we didn't actually talk about the Gin Blossoms though. Gin Blossoms are great.
Yeah, I love the Gin Blossoms.
All right.
There's more music coming. Brian R. from Westchester, New York. Is it possible to make friends as an adult like you did in college or high school or junior high, according to Stand By Me, with that ongoing depth and connection? This isn't based on having kids in the same. That isn't based on having kids in the same grade. So can you make friends outside of having kids in the same class as an adult? It's harder. It's definitely harder.
It's really hard. I'm guessing it's harder now than ever, oddly enough, since we're all so connected. I have made some friends as an adult because I moved from when I was, I was 30, I was 29, 30. I moved from New York City to New Hampshire, which is a very different place. And through mountain biking, I made some friends. And I met a lot of people, but over the years, those got whittled down to like a handful of people who I consider to be really good friends. But they're not Ron Connor friends. They're not Ryan. It's not that. It's close at times, but you met when you're older and you've got a bunch of shit going on. I don't think you can forge the same kind of relationship because you can't focus on the one thing. Like I used to go, Connor and I met in college. We were pretty good friends by the end of college, but in the time just after that, when you have nothing else, like I was like, I'm going to go to New York and hang out with Connor. And that's all I had to do.
Yeah, we were friendly in college, but not friends after college.
By the end, I think, it's like senior year.
We were friends senior year, but we weren't like close, like super tight like we are now in college until after college. I don't know why.
Well, there was a lot, but I mean, like, and I remember that wasn't the first time I met you. It wasn't, but you came out when I was in LA, and you were more friends with my roommates than me.
I was visiting your roommates, yeah.
You're visiting my roommates, Steve. And you came to LA, and you guys didn't do anything. And I just thought, oh, he didn't come here to visit LA. He came to hang out with his friends.
Yeah.
And I remember that. And I was like, I really like that. That it wasn't like, hey, let's go out here.
We went to the pool.
Yeah, no, it was just like, I just want to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
And we happened to be in this other place. And that kind of stuck with me. And you would then, when we were, younger. And it's funny because I think about it, we were in our 20s. You and I.
Ironically, I met my college girlfriend on the trip.
Yeah. And I lost mine. And that was another one. I think it was for the better. But I liked that. And I think when we were in our 20s, you would come to LA or I would go back to New York, just cuz.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have any money. that was extremely expensive to do. But those are like the best. That's huge. And you can't do that stuff when you're married with kids or whatever. Like it just doesn't.
It's certainly harder, and life seems shorter, or the days seem shorter. It's not impossible. Like I didn't meet Mike Romo until I was in my late 20s, and he's one of my best friends now. Right. I didn't meet Hank until I was like 30. He's one of my best friends now.
And he was 12
guys. I didn't meet Ryan until I was an adult. He's one of my best friends now. So like, now granted, that's all 20s and early 30s, and it's hard, as someone who was significantly older now. I have people that I'm friendly with, and we'll see. And then you've got your work friends, and who knows what those translate or not.
Work friends are almost always transitory.
Even if you sometimes, occasionally they hang on, but it's harder. Less time to hang out, less time to spend doing nothing.
If I'm just speaking in iFanboy terms, the three of you, Connor, Josh, Ron, you guys are really easy people to make friends with. Like you're all very accessible, very wonderful people. Mike Romo is a magical gremlin of friendship that just exists throughout time. And like
you should have seen him at the wedding, working that wedding.
Right? Like
it was vintage.
Mike Romo he's never met a stranger. He does not know what the word stranger means because he's Mike Romo. And if you've met him, you are not a stranger. You are one of his friends.
It's true that every time I text him, I think he thinks I'm his best friend, and I'm so happy about it. And like it's like once every 6 months.
It's powerful.
He loves you guys. Like he loves.
I do too. I know that.
It's
part of it. Part of it is like
it's scientifically proven to be harder to make friends as an adult than it is when you're younger.
True, but it's also like we have a self-selected community of really good people that are all aligned in our goal of just not being assholes, and like that goes a long way in getting us all to persist.
He's our asshole. We got to move on. Matt, Josh, do 31.
31. Matt from New Jersey. Occasionally during the weekly podcast, one of you, usually Connor, will comment that you need to speed things up because the show is, quote, running long. I've been wondering about this. He's going to burst the whole bubble. How are you determining what the appropriate length for the weekly podcast is? Usually the show seems to clock in at a little over an hour. So are you trying to keep it around an hour? And is that self-imposed? Is there some other length restriction dictated by iTunes that I'm not aware of? Connor?
It's all self-imposed limits. We talked earlier about the show being a growing living organism. So the first episode is people who read the ticker know at the bottom, the viewers not the viewers at home. The first show was 18 minutes long. And then it just became eventually over time and quicker than I thought when I looked back and looked up all the show numbers when I made my master spreadsheet of all the shows. It sort of settled into an hour-long show. Mm-hmm. There's no reason other than that's the length we'd like it to be. And then, and Josh and I talked about this before, maybe on the Hangout, I don't remember where, but, the longer the show gets, the more work it takes on the back end.
Yeah, really. You
got to edit it. You got to do the show notes. So, if you do a 2-hour show, that multiplies a lot more. Like you see the show when it comes out, but there's pre-production, show, post-production. The longer the show, the more work on either end, and we just don't have the time because we're older.
It's sort of a double-edged sword because and I'm speaking from my own experience as a podcaster. I've done the pre-production for the show once, which was terrifying.
Oh yeah, we left you and Jim in charge. Right?
Yeah, that was rough. But the amount of time you put into the before the show is inversely proportional to the amount of time you put in after the show. So if you put in more time in front of the show, you end up with a tighter better show that you need less editing on afterwards. And if you just let the show be freeform, but you want to keep the show tight and short to within a reasonable length, then you have to like put in a lot of effort in editing and cutting things out. And it's just, you as a podcaster, you have to make a call. Where do you want to put in the effort? Do you want to make effort beforehand or afterwards? And the recording part is the fun part. That's where you get to have fun, dick around with your buddies. And the work either comes before or after. And if people like Connor, you want to put in the work before, and that's a valid choice, and it does help the show.
Oh, I put in the work after too, man.
Yeah.
But I would also say this: these shows we're doing right this moment are really fun to do once a year, but none of us want to do a 3-hour show every week. We don't have time for it.
No. And also,
we barely have time to do the hour show. So many shows, Josh is like on the wire to get to a meeting when the show recording is ended.
And it's one thing to be like the post prod time really is. So that if you add 20 minutes to show, you're adding like 30 to 40 minutes more that I have to work on it, doing the least fun part of the whole thing. The other part really does have to do with the audience and how I place myself in the audience. Is that like, I don't want to listen to an hour and a half, 2-hour podcast. I don't want to. I will get tired of it. And if it gets to be too long too often, I won't listen to it. Like I will stop listening to it. You know, when the WTF podcasts started getting longer and longer, and I was like, I don't want to do an hour 45 because that's going to be like 3 times that I have to listen to something. Yeah. Like an hour, like get it, leave before they want you to go. And I think
I think it's just a good number.
Yeah.
Like to me, the perfect length of the show, and if I'm editing it and like I can kind of fudge it like with the music.
Yep.
Is absolutely 1 hour. Like I try to get the show to be 1 hour flat. If I can make the music a little longer, a little shorter to hit that 1 hour, I'll always do it because I like that. I think it's the perfect length of the podcast.
It's a little different now because of the pandemic, because I have found as a podcaster that so much of getting people to listen to your show is about whether or not they have a commute. And lots of people who used to have a commute,
they don't have
a commute anymore. Yeah. And so
yep.
I have heard through my networks that like the 15 to 20 minute show is ideal. And I'm like, I get that that's ideal because that's how long it takes to take the dog out to go to the bathroom. It's not how long it takes to commute to work anymore. So,
there's always different theories on what the perfect number is. When we started doing the video show, it was like, shorter's better. No one wants to watch a long show on the internet. That's why we started chopping up the shows towards the end. Like, and then now it's like longer's better. Everybody wants to watch. So there's no one really.
Which was our instinct.
The ideal length is the amount of time the person has available in their day to listen to content relative to their interest in listening to you make that content available to them.
You specifically, Josh.
I know. That's fine.
Well, we all know that. It's Rifttober.
Stephen H. He says, I've been thinking about this since Ron left, and then when Paul left. I love the work you do, but did you ever have any doubts about how to carry on as a twosome? And was there ever a plan B? Secondly, any chance of an occasional guest third in the POW show, especially from an underrepresented voice, LGBT person of color, bald aging Welshman? I think Stephen is a bald aging Welshman.
Connor's close enough.
I don't even know how to do a Welsh accent, but I think there was some hesitation in the very beginning. Like when Ron first left, we were like, "Oh shit, can we do this as 2?" And if you look at the bottom ticker, and again, the viewers at home don't know that there's a ticker full of fun facts going across the bottom. The original Jamoke era, Josh, only lasted like 20 shows until Ron came back, and then so in fact, it's coming across right now. So the original era was 370 shows. The 2 Jamokes Part 2, which is now, is 190. When Ron came back, it was 118 shows. The Paul era was 99 shows. And the original 2 Jamoke era was only 20 shows.
So wait, how long has this era been going?
190.
So we're about to... No, 370 was what we
370 was the original era.
Huh. I think that there was a point where I don't even remember. I don't think I remember that there was two Jamoke eras, quite honestly. But I think that there was
we forget Ron came back for a long time. But I think at the beginning we were nervous, and we settled into the rhythm of this actually works pretty well. And I would like to also point out that many people often say, "Why don't you just make Ryan a permanent co-host?" And Ryan's answer is always, "Why don't you ask Ryan if he wants to be a permanent co-host?" if Ryan wanted to be a permanent co-host, it's fine, but it's a lot of work.
It doesn't feel like my place to say that either way. Like, legitimately, you know, I cherish my relationship with all of you, including Ron, and I never felt like it was appropriate for me to step up to the plate and say, "Hey, make me a permanent co-host." Like, I didn't want it, and it was never offered, and so like there was never any ill will about what that relationship was meant to be, and I don't know. I just I appreciate what I have with y'all, and like when I get to come on the show, it's super fun and it's a treat.
I think I actually ended up liking. I like the fact that there's nothing to do with Ryan or not, but like the math of two people tended to work out well. And
it's different. It's fun. It's fun in the way that it's
and it kept it interesting for us after doing a 3-person show for such a long time. I don't remember what it was, but there was a conversation like, "Did we find a third person?" And I remember just thinking, "No, let's just you and I do it," because we'd been doing it a little bit, and I was like, "This is fun. It's got a little space in it."
It's funny that you mentioned math because I think the math works out better with 3 because with 2 we tend to you and I hit the same books every week. Well,
that's true.
Pick wise, so with 3, it's almost impossible to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not a mathematician, but that's the math of it. The back and forth.
You're a spreadsheet expert. That's
and having the room to talk is more. You know, there's more room with 2 than there is with 3.
You know, as opposed to other folks of underrepresented voices, you know, we do the show with the people that we know. We're not against anything. We are very, 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 very specific about the idea of a personality that fits in with the kind of show that we do.
And also just from a nuts and bolts standpoint, they got to be able to do it during the workday. And
there's that too.
They're like we I don't even remember when we used to do the show at night or I don't remember.
We've done it lots of times over the years, but
when it was full time, we could do whenever. But now it's like we have to be able to fit it in during our workday, and that means daytime because Josh has kids. So that means I do it at 6:00 in the morning in LA. Josh does it.
He does it at 7:30. He always says 6.
I get up at 6. I'm awake at 6.
I wake up a half an hour before the show too. You don't see me complain.
I would also say that you know, the 3 of us have never had a discussion about me being like the permanent third person. Like that's never been a thing that's been talked about. Like that's just not part of the discussion. Like the discussion.
We weren't trying to solve a problem.
Right. There was no problem to solve. Like you guys do the show, the 2 of you, great. I listen to it and I enjoy it. I love getting to come on when I get to come on. I love getting to be the third person. I love getting to be the other half of the Jamokes. Like it wasn't, you didn't need me to step in to, Ron left a void, but like Ron is a singular person in his own right. And like, he wasn't asking me to fill in for that. And so I never offered. And so that's part of the, you know, that's part of why the dynamic works the way it does. Because I don't have the same relationship with the 2 of you that you have with Ron.
I will say I'm trying not to speak out of turn. It's hard to do every week. And we're not digging ditches here. But I know it was hard on Paul to do it every week. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot to do. We've been doing it since 2005, so it's sort of ingrained into our personalities and lives. But like, if you're not that person, it's hard to suddenly have to do this every week and read the books and do the show and edit it every third week. If you're the third.
You also notice like we have a small group of people who come and do the show with us, and that's because we do not want to ruin the vibe. And the fact is, like, you have to be someone who's pretty good friends with us. We've never had in the entire time a guest host. You know, like just brought somebody in to hang out with us because that would ruin the fucking show.
There was a moment. There was a moment, Josh, that you know, and I've told you guys this privately, but I guess I'll say it publicly now. Like, you know,
Ryan's drunk and he's confessing. Go ahead.
And sure, don't you know that when the sun comes up on your face,
and my wee smated mother, me ma.
So the thing that I want to say is,
Ryan is the best. We love you. Continue.
No, but the thing is, you know, I've told you guys this before. I've told you, the 2 of you and Ron before. Like, you guys are my big brothers that I don't have, and that's important to me. And there was a moment where I think I was prepping to do the show with Jim, and it was going to be my first outing as like the guy who had to do the show by
Jim
myself. Jim Viscardi. Go back to $7.99 to see who Jim Viscardi is.
I was just saying, Jim Ski, one of our other sometimes filling us in the chat room. I didn't know who you were talking about.
I was talking about Jim Viscardi from episode 799, the previous episode of this very podcast. Mm-hmm. Josh said something along the lines of like, he listened to the rough cut of the episode and was like, "Oh, Ryan, you get it. You actually can talk about comics well enough that I'm not scared, upset, nervous."
We would leave the show in your hands, no problem.
I remember saying that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That meant everything. That was huge. And it's like, well, I'm not going to ask to replace Ron on the show. Like, Josh gave me everything I needed to, like, be satisfied with myself and everything that I have to say about comics. Like, I'm done. Peace out. I'll see you guys later.
Well, we could keep going down this confessional hole here. But Ryan, we love having you on, and you should come on as much as you want to come on.
Somebody.
Someone who says can't be a permanent host.
No, that's exactly. He did exactly what he was supposed to do there. That's the joke. You do the whole thing, you build it up, and then you deflate that fucker. Someone in the chat said I could bring in Tom King to guest host, and it wouldn't ruin the show. And that's true. There's lots of pros who I've considered putting the show on, but you know what? I don't want a comics professional to do the show.
We shouldn't have a comics professional on this ever.
No, they won't talk about the stuff honestly, so it doesn't work because they can't. They're peers. They're whatever. So we have to find a different way to do those things.
Dr. Ryan helped read 33.
33 was written by William S. from Kansas City in the state of Kansas.
William S. Burroughs.
I think it's Kansas. I just guessed. It could have been the other one.
I've been thinking about this since number 796. I assume he means number Pick of the Week episode.
Yeah.
The same day I listened to a Garth Ennis.
Yeah, you're not drunk.
Oh boy, here we go. The same day I listened to
a man who's got no sleep, he's got a new baby, probably hasn't eaten dinner, he's drinking moonshine from Joe Bob. What was his name?
He's not drunk. This is just what it's like to have a newborn. He's not anything.
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
Vic Bob and
Boss Vic Bob. Continue.
The same day I listened to a Garth Ennis interview on Word Balloon, another comic book podcast. I know Josh is hesitant to interview Garth Ennis, but what if it wasn't about Preacher, but other topics like his War comics or his Max comics? If the answer is no, I throw it open to the broader group. Is there a period of war history you would like to see Garth Ennis cover in one of his war stories?
Josh, is it true you don't want to interview Garth Ennis? You've interviewed Garth Ennis.
What the hell?
I interviewed him. I don't think it went great.
On the video show, it wasn't great.
And I've listened to interviews with him, and I just don't feel like I have anything to add to it.
I don't know that until you talk to him.
Listen, I do the interviews. I have a very specific set of things that I need to make me feel comfortable with wanting to do it. And to I want it to feel a certain way. And if I don't think it's going to feel that way, I don't want to do it. I tried to listen to an interview that he did recently, and I didn't want to listen to it. Like he's got a thing where he kind of doesn't want to talk about the thing he wants to talk. He'll do there and he'll seem affable. I don't know. He's not engaged.
But what do they talk about? Because he'd love to talk about war comics.
I didn't
probably
get that
want to talk about war comics. You probably have a great conversation about war comics.
Listen, we're not here to talk about this.
No, wait. Actually, no. This is a good point. Like, you're a good interviewer, Josh. So,
thank you.
What is when you are preparing for an interview with not a Garth Ennis type, but like with whatever your Talksplode, what's your hook? What do you think about? How do you prepare to do an interview in a way that isn't trite, that isn't boring? Like what do you look for in that person's oeuvre to dig a little deeper? Because I know you do.
I look for something that I feel that we can connect on. So, I don't want to be a person who's just asking somebody questions who is answering them. I want to have a conversation with somebody. There are certain people who do interviews and they have a professional demeanor where they're answering things like a good example of this. We had Brad Meltzer on a year or so ago.
That was a good interview.
Thank you. And he was perfectly fine or whatever, but he is a professional to a certain extent where there's certain...
He's a talking head. He knows how to talk on camera.
Yeah, he does. And I think he was, for being that type of person, he was very genuine. And I think that he meant the things that he said, but it wasn't exactly as much of a personal conversation personal connection as I like. I like to have some form of a personal connection there, and I have to kind of be able to see it. So if you're walking up to somebody at a party and you're like, I think I can have a conversation with a person, it's almost that simple. Like I have a very sort of, I see, and that was an opportunity that came up. He reached out, but he also told me that he goes, I asked Judd Winnick and Chris Eliopoulos, who both knew you, if you were okay. And they said you were.
You didn't ask me.
What would you have said, Connor?
It's not okay. That's for sure. We all know that.
To me, like I hate interviews where the interviewer is operating at a different conversational level as the person he's talking to. I hate fawning interviews. I hate like you do the best great work. I'm so honored to have you. I hate it.
What are you gonna do for episode 100, Josh? What Talk Split 100 are you gonna do?
I figured you should get Alan Moore to interview me.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll get right on it. Real quick, what is a war you'd like to see Garth Ennis write about? I'm gonna say I'd like to see him write about the American Revolution.
That'd be really interesting. I don't care which war he writes about. I want to see his thoughts on something that I've never thought about in that way before. So, that whether that's his take on World War II, the American Revolution, the fucking some other war I don't even know.
I'm also happy to keep writing about World War II. Ryan,
I would like to see Garth Ennis write about the Troubles.
Ooh, I thought
hasn't he always been writing about the Troubles? Isn't it all about the Troubles?
I mean, my answer was either the Troubles or the next one, which feels too ominous to get into right now.
That's
so
dark. Jeez, all right. Too dark for this late in the show. I'm going to read the next one. Carol from HR wrote in, guys.
Josh, he's so mad at us right now.
Ooh, I'm not mad.
No, he's not.
Carol from HR wrote in.
That's mad.
Carol says, hi, bosses. Please define the patron pick. The submission form simply says, what comic book do you want discussed on iFanboy? Am I supposed to vote for the book I'm anticipating the most that week? Or am I voting for my personal pick of the week that I want to evangelize to you in the iFanbase? I voted both ways, so frequently I've finished my stack by the time the form is due. That's usually the book I'm most excited to read. The goal, either way, is to get you to talk about it. And I'm not above a chaos pick, like a random My Little Pony issue, if that's what the other patrons want. But I'd be curious to know what you see as the patron pick. P.S. I printed out the script for the show, so if you cut this email, I will know. Please define the patron pick, Josh.
We're doing I mean, it appears to me that the definition of the patron pick is to pick the most obvious book that we were clearly going to read anyway. Or B, pick the one that we'll both hate. And
this is the question. Like, we've never defined it, and I don't know if we want to define it, but
I think that's
for
a
me,
good point.
The patron pick is whatever you want it to be as a patron. If you want it, we always said add a book to the rundown. That's what we say.
That's true.
Vote to add a book to the rundown. It's just, to me, it could be guarantee this book gets talked about, because sometimes people are like, oh, they'll definitely talk about this book, and we don't. So maybe it's a book you definitely want us to talk about, or maybe it's a book you think we haven't read or missed, or maybe it's a book you just really like. I don't know what it is, because it's just a vote to add a book to the rundown. I thought when we added the feature that it would be people saying these guys aren't reading this book, they should read it, but it's been all kinds of things. Sometimes there's a lot of chaos picks in there.
I mean, I think that's maybe the thing, is that that everybody's interpreting that for themselves some way. But we shouldn't give instructions on it.
I don't want to define it, Carol. I think it should be it's vote to add a book to the rundown. Mm-hmm. Just for whatever your personal choice that is. This is always one of the most exciting moments of the show, guys. Every week, every year we look forward to this. And I'm going to
every week, every year?
Every week, every year. I do this by myself every week just to keep tight. Just to keep tight. I'm going to share my screen.
To me, the patron pick often feels like a punishment.
Sometimes it's a punishment. And for a while, it was a bunch of horror books. Guys, it's the annual report from Chris from the iFanboy Data Analytics Department. And I was very happy to see this email because, for reasons we'll get to in a second. Chris says, first, an apology. My real-life medical duties, including 5 months of frantic COVID vaccinating, has made life incredibly busy. Thank you for the weekly cold open, encouraging hand washing and mask wearing and getting vaccinated. Those messages remain as vital as ever.
As a result, Chris for actually vaccinating people. That's amazing.
Yeah. Chris is a medical doctor in addition to data analytics. We often
he's got to prioritize
data analytics
obviously
over the medical doctoring. Chris says, as a result of my data analytics duties had to take something off a back seat. I haven't been able to maintain the database as diligently as usual. This is true. I talked to Josh about that. However, in order to prepare for episode 800, I've blown through 5 months worth of Patron powers in 3 weeks to generate a shorter than usual annual report, which is attached below. So Chris is a medical doctor. He maintains the report. He had stopped.
It sounds like a terrible use of social resources.
I know, right? Chris, rub it in my face.
So this is the annual analytics report, which we're going to go through now.
Wait a minute. We have the most doctors per comics podcast.
Patron powers. These figures relate to iFanboy shows released 20th September 2020 to 26th September 2021. This is year 5 of the Patron powers program. Changes to the program in this year include the increase of the number of powers bestowed from 2 per show to 4 per show from 3rd March 2021, episode 770. Total number of powers bestowed this year, 164. God, that is so many powers. It is hard. This compares to 153 in 2019-20. Josh gave out 78 compared to 69. Connor, 76 compared to 70. Ryan Haupt gave out 5 compared to 7. Paul Montgomery gave out 2 compared to 0. Jim Viscardi gave out 2 compared to 1 in the previous time period. Total all-time powers bestowed. Episodes 550 through 799, which is 900 total powers is 918. You've given out 918 powers, guys. That's a lot. Josh is getting out the most, 389 powers. Connor's getting out 385. Josh and Connor together co-created 1 power. I don't remember that happening. Ron gave out 81. Ryan Haupt 41. Jim Viscardi 10. Paul Montgomery 7. Jim Marszkowski 2. And the eccentric benefactor Damian Sherman, both Damian and Jim are in the chat room, also gave out 2. The data analytics department projects that depending on the length of the 2021-2022 Christmas and New Year break, and assuming a steady supply of $5 or higher patrons, the 1,000th power will be bestowed at the end of February, beginning of March 2022. Superhero names. 2022-2021 was the year of the superhero name, with 22 names bestowed at the same time as the power compared to 15 names bestowed the previous session. This is the highest number of superhero names bestowed in a single year since the Patron Power program began. Power types. Most favored power type in the last year since episode 750 is the Media Savant. 3 powers bestowed. Nicholas Allen, he got the preternatural capability of spotting every possible plot hole in movie script. Duke White can always spot the Canadian actor in a TV show. And Matthew Killison is in an instant he can tell you the most important moment in any given media story. Stationary-based powers, 4 powers bestowed. David Gilman can sharpen pencils with the wave of his hand. Bailey Simone can refill any writing implement. His pen never runs dry. George Crawford, when using a pen or pencil, never runs dry. Counts as duplicate power. Sam Conti has eraser fingers. In the weather, climate manipulation powers, 4 powers bestowed. Ryan Silberstein, in a world that's just a little too warm, tiny oscillating fans rise from out the back of his palms.
That's
both hands, creating a gentle current of air. Not enough to force to fly or hover, but enough to create a cool breeze.
Or disperse smoke.
Or disperse smoke. Jay Batzinger can summon a create tornadoes. He's limited to a maximum of 6 inches in height. They're proportional speed and force to their size. Thuranga Basanya. I'm sorry, I can't read from here. Thuranga Basnake. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Wherever he is in the world, the weather is always
Basniake.
The weather's always perfect where it needs it to be. And Nito Bazito can conjure up tiny thunderstorms in the palm of his hands. Sounds similar to the Chandler thing, but Chris, it is not. And then there's body transformation powers. Ryan Howard, when he eats meat, he can transform into the same kind of animal he just ate for up to 24 hours.
That's fucked up.
I don't remember that one. That's crazy.
I don't remember that. I don't feel
that is really.
Tristan has snake mouth. He can just look at his jaw to swallow prey. Grows long venomous fangs at will. Chris Wigg has whip fingers. That was mine. Ben Christian can turn any part of his body into an adorable foam appendage.
That's mine.
And then the number 1 type of power given out was food-based powers, 11. Matt Palmer can make any food purely from vegetable matter. It tastes exactly as if it was from meat. Chukalana can watch any cookery show and intuitively assume the style of cookery of the individual. Jason Muir can eliminate gluten from anything while retaining its glutinous properties. Scott Ricketts can de-cook foods. Useful for bringing foods back from an overcooked state. Chris Hunter has the ham touch. Everything it touches turns to some sort of ham. Huh?
I'm laughing at my own jokes.
We do this every year, Ryan. George Sullivan can expertly stuff any food that requires it. Trent Deckard knows what tacos are. James Valancode can make anyone like any food. John Costello can skewer any food on a stick in popsicle fashion. Adam Candlett can reconstitute any bread if it's stale or moldy, and to bring it back to peak breadness. And Chris McKelland can smoke meat perfectly. And that is the truncated patron report for this year. Thank you for Chris for not only maintaining the database that we use for the reports, which he does. He has a spreadsheet that we use, but also for being a medical personnel who is working on vaccinating people.
Wait, did he format that? Because that is a beautiful document.
No, this is his document. He sent it in.
It's the most impressive thing about it, and I don't mean that in a way to denigrate the work. I'm just
So now is the point where we should have gotten before the patron powers. Patron powers. Patreon.com/iFanboy. If you give it the $5 or higher level, you get your own patron power live on the show. And Josh, the one you have, I believe, wrote an email in already. So double him.
Wait, I gotta go back up to it. So Alex Tremblay has the power to manipulate, transform, and create banners. If there's a banner, he can change that banner and what the text on the banner is. He can make a banner appear that says the message that he wants on it. He's all power. Alex is to banners what Magneto is to metal.
Oh boy,
he's a bannerman. He deals in banners. And the paper ones, not Bruce Banner. It's not
sure. Yeah.
Paper. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The ones you read. Look, Michael.
Craig Karst can manifest handkerchiefs.
You botched it. You botched it.
I botched it?
Karst, come on.
No, you're not supposed to.
His last name is a type of limestone topography that is indicative of caves.
Your ass gets more nerdy the more you drink.
Yeah.
Craig Karst can.
There was a lovely acceptance there. That is true.
Craig Karst can manifest handkerchiefs, but he always does it in a very flamboyant fashion.
A flourish.
There's a flourish.
We've had this.
And maybe it's silk, maybe it's cotton, depending on your handkerchief need. Maybe you need it for decorative purposes. Maybe you need it to blow your nose or wipe something. Your head's sweaty.
Is the color controlled? Like, say, for example,
are you saying his palms are sweaty? Mom's spaghetti. He's got vomit on his sweater already.
Is this what it's like? Usually for the outside of it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So, yes, Ryan, all those things are true. So, any color, any style. Yeah. So there you go.
Richard Long has an amazing power. He has an aura that exists around him that whoever is within his sphere of influence, which is purposely vague. Josh, I think you're going to appreciate this. They use the correct word according to Richard for whatever they're talking about.
I just talk like that anyway.
They don't. If Richard thinks that they should say fewer instead of less, they say fewer.
I see.
So therefore, to express yourself most perfectly towards Richard is Richard's power.
Richard always gets it's whatever word Richard thinks is the correct word.
Well, conversely, Richard is never confused by the people talking to him.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to.
So he
always knows.
He's able to understand all of the people who talk to them, regardless of that person's ability to communicate effectively, because they're talking to him.
Or irregardless.
Never irregardless.
Oh.
But that's what I'm saying. If you're talking to Richard, that will never be confused.
Well,
Patreon.com/iFanboy. We have to get a lot of emails to get through. That's how you can get the show power on the live on the show. If you give the $5 higher level, but any patron can vote out of the book, the rundown. All kinds of benefits.
Ever not be confused.
Josh, please tell the people about the thing.
Patreon.com/iFanboy is the place to go. There's a good chance if you're listening to this, you're very aware of it. In which case, I'd like you to listen to my talk on it for the next 30 minutes or so. The patrons are the people who keep this show going. They're the reason that we are talking about this 800 episodes later. Whenever they came in the last time, whether it was the iFanboy membership before that or the patrons that we went to after that, it is why this exists. You people who said we will make them feel rewarded for this. We will support this, even if it's a little bit for you. All that is fantastic for us, and we appreciate that. And what we have tried to do in giving back is the different levels of the rewards, which is the patron pick, which is the patron powers, is the talk explode, which the patron pick and the patron powers have added 10 to 15 minutes to every show. That is a thing that you have done. You have made the shows longer. We brought back the regular, although not necessarily on a schedule, talk explodes, book explodes, media explodes, and the YouTube content that is the full length shows are almost fully up there. All being back up to YouTube, presumably forever, is part of the historical record, more so than the Library of Congress, and the monthly patron hangouts, which are very fun. They're like this. But even less regimented. There's a new stretch goal, which is if we reach the next one, we'll add a comic book TV show special addition to our shows where we will talk about the complete series of a show that we are excited to talk about, not like episode by episode. Yeah, I'm yawning. It's really late.
Like the Invincible show.
Right, and after that, the next level would be a new barbecue email video show on a quarterly basis.
You don't have to read the script word for word. You could go highlights.
I know. I'm starting to fade. I was like, look out to Ryan. I was like, oh no, my words are gone too. Then there's also the communities at Facebook and Discord. Those are really fun. There is iFanboy.threadless.com. There are 11 shirt designs. I have a new phone coming, and I'm gonna need a case for that sumbitch. But they don't have the new ones yet. So as soon as they do, I'm put that on. Connor's wearing one of his, and I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm wearing one of mine. Stay home, read comics.
There you go.
This shirt has recently begun to fit again, which is nice. You can put that on stuff. I got to get me a Clint is Dead shirt. And
I have one.
I need awesome. Did it come out really well?
Yeah, it's distressed. It's great.
That's great. Go to iFanboy.com/support. You will find a PayPal link for any of those things. You can go to iFanboy or iFanboy.com/Amazon, where you will find links to buy the shows, books from the Booksplode, and every show has the music linked and the pick of the week linked, and then just if you want to buy stuff on Amazon because you're stuck at your house all the time, and at least when that brown truck comes, something good comes out of it.
So you made a friend as an adult. You made that as the UPS driver.
No, he's been replaced 20 times over since then. That first year though, God, what calves he had. Let's move on.
Well, Chris from the iFanboy Data Analytics Department wrote in an actual question, which we're going to answer. And his question is, I have also a question about the Gosh scale. Can you define what you think makes a good old superhero comic? Looking at your previous iFan grumbles, themes that come up about new costume designs that lose the spirit of the original, or when a character's attitude is in conflict with what we've come to expect. I assume these books would lose Gosh points. You've also spoken about fun plots where it's okay, perhaps even desirable to have a flavor of Silver Age silliness. What other qualities do you think a comic that's high on the Gosh scale needs to show?
I mean,
Josh, you coined it.
Yeah, it is. It's entirely unscientific, to a certain extent. It's what makes you think of how comics used to be, and your platonic ideal of what a superhero comic was at one point that gives you that same feeling that you used to have when you first fell in love with comic books. That's it. I think the Morrison coefficient is very important here. Why does it make sense? It doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
I think that's got a big part to do with it. But to me, I think the reason that I thought of it was this. It's this letting go of all of the things that people think they're supposed to have in modern comics. It's this just like, we'll just do the silly thing. Has to be good. You can't just say something's dumb and be like, oh, that's like old superhero comics. Like you just find this way to lose the weight of everything that has grown up around comics when we all aged to be in our 40s, and all the people making comics are in their 40s and 50s, and everybody's got to be serious. And why do you have to fill the Batmobile up with gas? Just fuck it. have a weird thing happen.
Yeah.
For a reason, narratively. You know,
I
like
think
Tom
for us-
King's comics, they're down low on the gosh scale.
Yeah.
It's not his game.
It's not his milieu. I think for us as men of a certain age, I think it's comics that evoke the spirit of the 80s. You know, like before the time when everything had to be explained, like you just talked about, where they're just allowed to be fun superhero comics. You didn't worry about, you know, how people paid rent or other than Spider-Man, because that was his thing. But
I think it's also what Josh mentioned. It's there's a bombasticness, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
That's a huge part of it.
It's hard to define, but it's there. You need it. Josh, do 43. Jump way ahead.
43 is Danny from Savannah, Georgia. I have been thinking about this question since Civil War II. It's weird that a question from Georgia said that. I was like, oh shit, when did that happen? Are comics worse than they were back in the mid to late 2000s, or am I just getting old and less excitable? That's a big question, dude. I don't know if we have time for that. Background, I started reading in high school around 2006. Oh, fuck you. Generally liked most of the things I read. Now I find it hard to get into things, and my subscriptions are at all-time low. I'm not sure if the comics are not as good, or my expectations are higher, or they just seemed better because I was a new reader, or were they just actually better? Because all those things.
Yeah. I mean,
and none of them.
Next question.
Everybody thinks the best SNL cast is when they started watching SNL.
I don't think that.
Most people do.
Most people do, though.
Yeah.
Connor has a spreadsheet that tells him.
Wait.
We're not going to.
No. What's your best SNL cast?
Mine?
Yes.
The original cast.
Yeah, you would say that.
Yeah.
I'm with Ryan, by the way.
The second season cast when they had Bill Murray.
Yeah. For me, the best one that, you know, is Carvey, Nealon, Hartman, Miller. That's
an all-time great cast for sure.
And that just introduced me to the whole thing. But again, that's totally. Anyway, yeah.
No, Ryan is totally right. You leave the dance with the one that brought you. So the stuff that you, but like,
those were.
I started reading comics in the early '80s, but I still like the comics from later better. It just depends.
Yeah, it's true. Like I started really reading comics in the late '80s, early '90s. That's not my favorite era of comics, though.
Yeah. When you get older, you get less excitable. Things are less exciting.
Well, because it's less. You don't see as much that's new. But also, I genuinely think that comics don't feel quite as original now. I think they're all trying to be original, but they're not getting to it as often or as well as they were for a while.
Yeah, I think genuinely, we talked about it earlier in the show, but genuinely speaking, from Morrison's JLA #1 in '96
7
through 2005 to 10, that was the best era of modern comics. They were better than they are now. They just were.
Here's what I think. That era, the post-bankruptcy era of creators, came in with a certain originality that came from what was in the air at the time.
Freedom and
yeah, well, that's right.
Freedom to do whatever the fuck they wanted and to be given the room to do it
because it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And you know, they're influenced by what they'd grown up reading. They're influenced by the films of the 90s. To a certain extent, whereas many of the creators here were raised on those creators, and it's a little bit of a copy to a certain extent, and the original voices aren't as easily found, and when they are found, they're not rewarded because things don't pick up in a way that let them grow.
That's a good point.
A lot of company men, but that's because they can get the job, and they're doing it, but it's not.
Well, every era of creators is doing what they read before. You know, the Roy Thomas came in doing what Stan and Jack and Stan did. Every does that. It's just that.
Yes, but I think that these creators are the ones who are influenced by the generation before. So it's your Warren Ellis's and your Bendis's and everything. That seems to like with this generation of creators is, whereas those ones were like looking at at a much bigger history of comics. I don't know that that's true. It's my feeling.
And there's always things to love.
Yes.
There's always great comics. It's just
true.
I think that on the whole, if you look back at like, you know, DC and Marvel, which runs everything, and Image too, like, you know, then you had Vertigo going full blazes in the early 2000s as well. And it was just a better time in terms of overall quality. But that's also entirely subjective.
Because the bar was lower in terms of like they had more freedom, but there was more money. So it's like two of those things.
Let's do Ryan read 48. We're being really brutal with cutting, and I'm sorry. Like I said at the beginning,
you're so good at that job, Connor.
We're running long.
I appreciate you.
Also, the chat room, they were saying Connor drunk too. I am not drunk, actually.
No, he's not. Look at the color. Look at him. He's regular Connor color.
I'm not red.
All right, well.
I've only had this much. That's hardly any.
48. Robert B. from Dracula?
No, it's Dacula. I looked it up. It's a real place.
Dacula. All right. Well,
Paging Dr. Acula.
Why isn't there more of an effort to buy mainstream?
I'm sorry. Wow. I might have to cut you from reading. This is I thought a short one. You'd be fine. Continue.
It's very short, and I failed. God. Why isn't there more of an effort by mainstream comics to create black and white comics, considering the success of The Walking Dead manga?
He's not laughing at the question. Robert's laughing at Ryan.
Like Batman.
It's like 8 words, and you can't get there.
So why aren't comics making more of an effort to create black and white comics, considering the success of Walking Dead manga and specialty comics like Batman Black and White?
I made it there. It was clumsy.
It was a roundabout route. That's fine. You took the scenic route. So, I would first of all, we don't how successful is Batman Black and White. We don't know. Walking Dead is an outlier. No one is able to replicate Walking Dead's success in any way, shape, or form. There's for every Walking Dead, there's literally 100 other black and white comics not selling that well, and manga comes and goes in terms of popularity in the United States. Like most people don't want to watch black and white movies; they don't want to read black and white comics.
I don't think it matters. I don't think anybody would try to make a black and white comic unless if it was their comic. You probably, I don't know. The fact that you're probably not selling any comics if they don't have Marvel or DC on them.
Yeah, but it's like why isn't but like. Batman Black and White succeeds if it does because they put super high profile prestige creators on it who just have to do a 7-page story. Like,
and also Batman's in the title.
Mitch Gerrards and David Aja and all, like that's why it succeeds. Not because it's black and white. If it was color, it would just as fun. I love black and white comics. I'm just saying it's not black. Yeah, I don't. Black and Walking Dead is not replicable. Replicable. It's just not. No, in comics or TV. Josh, oh no, this is for you, so I'll read it. James L. from Vermont. Let me take this question off. Question for Josh. After hearing him mention recently that he owns 10 guitars, people are hung up on this 10 guitar things.
I know. I feel like I'm putting somebody through something answering it.
What are your cheapest guitars, and how much do they cost? I have 2 reasonably nice guitars, an Ovation acoustic and a PRS class electric, both in the $500 to $700 range. I would like another guitar, and I'm constantly looking at options, but I can't justify spending more than $200 or $300. I worry about the quality of the guitar I can get for that price. Just won't be worth it. So, Josh, have you got any cheap guitars that turned out great? Or did you have some great luck buying something underpriced on Craigslist or a flea market? Or is comics podcasting just fueling an avalanche of cash that you're investing in expensive guitars? And if you're happy to just talk about guitars, what is your favorite guitar that you own? Let's not go 10 hours on this question.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if it's 10. I don't want to count, but I can't remember. $200 or $300 is probably too low unless you're really good and you know what you're looking for and you can get your hands on things. $200 or $300 means that it's starting with like you have to replace everything in it to sort of make it into a quality thing. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't have any really expensive guitars. Like that is the thousands of dollars. Probably the most expensive ones I own were $900 new, let's say, and only.
So what do you do with your avalanche of podcasting cash? Then you're investing it in T-bills. T-bills.
We have a good deal of medical bills around here. That's what I can tell you actually happens. I don't know. I find the $400 to $600 sweet spot's good, and then I almost always I change up the pickups or whatever. I don't know that I have a favorite guitar. I think probably my number one best, the thing that works best. I have an American Telecaster that my wife bought for me in 2005. I gave her an engagement ring and she gave me that guitar, and it's like
an O. Henry story.
No, it's just like it's the best. It can do anything. I don't own a Taylor. I own a Guild acoustic. I wanted a Taylor for a little while, but they're really expensive. But instead I bought a Guild acoustic. It's an $1,100 guitar. I bought it with a repaired crack on the back for $300 on Reverb. It was awesome.
Let's do. Let's do. Josh, do 50.
Elon P from South Africa, and I cannot do that accent, so you don't have to worry about it.
South Africa.
I literally can't do it. All I can say is diplomatic immunity.
Exactly.
aside from a handful of titles, I would drive past that house sometimes in LA with the stilts.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon 2. Aside from a handful of titles that I read on Comixology, I mostly switch entirely to trade because between double shipping and single issues increasingly costing $5 or more, and that's not including the volatile conversion rates, import fees, and tax here in South Africa, I'm so sorry. That's the worst. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I've reached my breaking point with keeping up on comics on a weekly basis. I assume I'm not alone on this, considering that the ever worsening sales charts. How close do you think we are to reaching a point where the single issue model becomes entirely financially unviable, or have we already crossed that Rubicon? And after your discussion on one of the hangouts about how badly Marvel and Image, and to a lesser extent DC, are doing in bookshops, do you think publishers are even remotely ready to make the jump to a different publishing model?
I would first say that the industry in a whole is doing really well, sales-wise. Like, sales are way up during the pandemic. Across, like, if you take the aggregate of all their sales, so it's not like it's crashing or anything. I don't know that if they were financially viable, they wouldn't do it. But
Right.
They wouldn't do it. If they were losing money on the single issues, they wouldn't make them. I like reading collected editions more than single issues, but I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, if they went away, that the trades would double in price because they're financed by the single issues.
Right. I don't know. I don't quite understand the economics of it before. It just doesn't. They're selling less and less and less and less issues, and at a certain point, I do think that one of the corporate overlords will say, like, yeah, we're making money on it, but why bother? Because it's not enough. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly make money.
Yes.
If they lost money, they wouldn't be. They'd pull the plug. Pull would be plugged. None of those are right. The order of the words. Ken O from Madison Heights, Michigan, had two questions. I'm going to ask his second one, which is shorter. This is slightly different than before. When was the last time you guys saw each other in person? We're going to say that for the three of us. Ryan, when was the last time you saw Josh in person? Was it my wedding?
No. Was it?
Was it when you were here? When we went mountain biking, like, forever ago?
Right. You and I went mountain biking forever ago, and it was great.
It was your wedding. It was Connor's wedding.
It must have been Connor's wedding.
It was absolutely Connor's wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I saw Ryan. Ryan used to be a regular visitor to Los Angeles, and he stopped doing that. Me and Mike cry about it all the time. Last time I saw Josh, I usually see each other. We used to see each other once a year during summer break. I'd go to some vacation near where he lived. He'd come down for the day. But since we haven't been going on vacations in the last year and a half, I haven't seen Josh. So 2019 would be the last time I saw Josh in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
But was that the year my tire blew out, the ice cream place?
Yes, that was the last time I saw you.
Awesome. That was awesome. That guy who couldn't fix it was so New England. He didn't give a fuck. He blocked the whole drive-through. He didn't give a fuck. Josh, 53.
53. Mark N. I've been thinking about this question since episode 700 when Dr. Ryan Halp called me a Tom King hipster, unquote, as part of the answer to a question I asked then. He was probably right. What's your single favorite Tom King book? I think I'd still go with Sheriff of Babylon.
Ryan, what's your single favorite Tom King book?
Good question.
Should we try to remember all of them?
We're
not going to be able to remember all of them right now. He had. Has anyone else read his first one? His first major miniseries. It was the space one with Kyle Rayner. The name of
the Omega.
The Omega Man.
Yeah.
Omega.
I tried to. No.
I read it. I didn't like it.
I didn't finish that.
I didn't like it.
He's got
Sheriff of Babylon, Vision, Mr. Miracle, Batman, Catwoman, Batman, the Strange Adventures. Is that all of them? That's not all of them.
No.
I can't.
Rorschach.
I mean, my answer is Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
That's
I love Sheriff of Babylon. It's probably number 2.
Vision's up there for me.
Vision's up there as well.
That was good. I kind of forgot
Supergirl.
about that. That's a really fun one.
Which one?
Supergirl. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of blown away by that.
It. Oh, Superman up in the sky. That's up there.
Oh, that's good.
It's really good.
It's a really good one. Up in the air, up in the sky. Look up in the sky. It's up in the sky.
I still really like Vision.
Vision's your number 1? It can be number 1. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's a game of inches, but it might be.
Josh, yours is Mr. Miracle. Mine is Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Josh, 355.
I thought you said 355.
Yeah, 355.
I'm a spy lady.
Way ahead.
Joel L. of Prosser, Washington says, I know several of you regularly pick up LPs and have a rather large collections. I've got 2 questions. Over the years of collecting, what's your biggest or favorite LP find at a thrift store? Goodwill, local charity store, blah, blah, blah. I find that great LP finds are getting harder to come by in the past 10 years. Do you think that it has anything to do with every TV show, movie, now often beer commercial that shows an apartment as a record player with a shelf of LPs in the background? I'm hoping that there are stacks of Mormon Tabernacle Choir and Jimmy Swaggart records, but I have a feeling they're taking great records off the market to be unloved and unlistened to. What do you all think?
How assume people buying records are not listening to them or not loving them?
I think that there are probably different kinds of record people. Just like there is anything, I buy records the same way that I do anything, very, very specifically.
Impulsively.
No, not impulsively, because
you were just saying earlier how you bought a record impulsively.
No, but that was like a thing that I loved. Like, I don't buy.
Well, it doesn't mean you don't love it.
I know, but impulsively is like, oh man, I should buy all these, like whatever it is when you see them. I don't want to add anything that I know I'm not going to listen to later.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you ever buy used records, or is it all new pressings?
I buy used records, and
if you go to like a thrift store, antique store that are all over New England and look at the records, or not?
I mean, those are usually like every time I've ever spent time doing that, there's nothing in there that's worth looking at, and they're in shitty condition, and I don't want.
So you're not making any thrift store finds?
Not really. If anything, like I wanted the first Pretenders album, and so I bought it used, but I knew what it was from a shop. Like that dumpster. I hate dumpster diving or like going through, because it's needle in a haystack area. I don't have that much time. I usually know what I want. If I ever saw something great in one of those, I'd pull it out. But then, you know what? Actually, the last time I did that was there's a flea market that's near us that's basically like Trump flag heaven now, so I won't go there anymore. But there was a bin, and they had 2 records. The last 2 records I bought like that were Beach Boys' Christmas album, and
it's a good one.
I'm sorry, it wasn't the Beach Boys Christmas. It was Beach Boys Live in '66, I think. And it was so fucked up you could barely listen to it. And then the Steve Martin Let's Get Small album. I bought those 2. Those are the last ones I bought. And it's rare that I put on a comedy album to listen to while working in my office. So,
I mean, I've certainly looked at albums and records in like antique stores, and if I saw something I really liked, I'd probably buy it. I have a couple I think my mom sent me like a bunch she had like of old, like really battered records.
I have a bunch of those. Lindsay's dad had a bunch of them. Like he's got amazing albums from like 68 through 70. Yeah.
But I tend to just buy them new pressings. Oh, that's a great one. Are those his records?
Yeah.
He's got Elton John's greatest hits.
This?
Jimi Hendrix?
No, just Fly on the Family Stone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He's a lot of Temptations.
Greatest hits.
This is
Otis Redding.
Donovan's greatest hit. I actually grabbed this because I'm going to listen to this Donovan album.
Awesome.
I got a bunch of stuff like that downstairs.
Why are LPs hard to find? Because people are into them again.
Well,
I don't know that's about TV, but it's just people are into them.
I think the thing about LPs, like good ones, is that people have realized their value. For decades, they were just around everywhere and nobody wanted them, and so you could go find them. But now people understand their value. So find something that's good, you're gonna have to pay for it.
Ryan, can you handle one?
You can't even answer the question.
56. We're gonna try this one.
You guys be so mean to me. Okay.
Get close to the microphone. Closer to the microphone, Ryan. There you go. Microphone awareness.
You know why that doesn't bother me when he does it? Because he's not running the show. When Connor runs the show. So if he's not there, I'm lost. But we can just watch this guy totter around all night.
Ryan, there you go. Get up there. Love that mic.
Tom C. from Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom.
I didn't say I had sex with that mic.
I've heard Josh say, "Oh God, it got unsexy."
It did quickly.
I've heard Josh say, "That's not my Hawkeye," a few times, and always wondered what he meant. For Josh, what is Hawkeye's core personality, and which comic run best showcases this? Question mark.
Good job, Ryan. Great job.
Don't reward that.
Sorry, I'm just trying to be helpful.
Hawkeye's core personality. We talked about this, I think, when we did the last, the Vision and Scarlet Witch.
I just hear maniacal laughter downstairs.
Yeah, his core personality is a guy who wants to be more than he is and is putting up a show.
He's the classic underachiever who just wants to get up there.
Yeah, but he
can do it if he really didn't self-sabotage.
Yeah, and he thinks both more and less of himself than he is at any given moment. And he does not come off as being particularly heroic.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like he's
Ryan, you're a huge shit.
Put upon that people don't recognize him for his greatness. But in a
So what's the quintessential Hawkeye book? Is it West Coast Avengers?
Mm-hmm. To me, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This next question is a visual aid, and so the viewers in the chat room will see it, but the viewers at home will not. Apologize. Zach C. from Houston, Texas says, I've been thinking of this question since I saw this beautiful sketch that Lee Weeks did on Instagram of this character. Ooh. Lee Weeks is the fucking best. The question is, does the thing have teeth? If not, how does it chew? Where do they go when he transformed? If so, are they rocky like his skin? Do they grow proportionally with him as he grew? I'd love to hear your insight into this important scientific question. And the good thing we have a scientist, Dr. Ryan Haupt. Dr. Ryan Haupt, does the thing have teeth?
Yes.
He does have teeth.
Really?
Yeah.
Have we ever seen his teeth? I don't believe I have.
Whether we've seen them or not doesn't matter to me. He's a mammal.
Ryan doesn't care about what you've seen. He cares about what he knows is scientifically correct.
Well, yeah, but what happens when a mammal is exposed to cosmic rays?
They die.
Well, exactly. So that's not.
So, like these four individuals, through their fantasticalness, survived the exposure, and in surviving that exposure, all four of them retained their teeth.
I think
and
that
so where are they?
I think that his lips are rock and they're his teeth. Although and you know what? I just realized what it was that was so weird about the Vic Mackey thing is that he did have teeth and it was unusual.
Here's the thing with the thing. My understanding of the way Marvel Comics works when it comes to the thing is that he is a human, right? Like that's always been the thing.
He's got.
It's hard to talk about. He is a human being who happens to have rocks as skin. In every other aspect, my understanding is he is human, right? He has lungs.
I don't know that that's true though, because there was a story where the rocks were coming off underneath them. It was like goo.
Yeah, but he said it was his skin. Like if you took your skin off, there would be some goo.
So Ryan, are you saying like underneath the skin, he's got like a regular human digestive system?
The thing I've always heard about the thing, I'm just going to lean into it. Into it. He is human except for his cosmic mutation. So like they always say the thing is the strongest person, human, whatever, in the Marvel universe. Like the Hulk is something different because he's exposed to gamma radiation, whereas Ben Grimm is still human. He's just a human who happens to have.
Wait, what kind of radiation is cosmic rays?
Cosmic.
That's not. There's
Kirby rays. They're Kirby rays.
No, there's actual cosmic rays. They're not gamma radiation.
Well, there's actual radiation in all throughout space. That's why they have to shield the ships.
I know, but I'm saying there's different kinds of radiation. That's not gamma radiation. There's a kind of
Kirby
radiation.
But it turns you from a man into a stretchy man.
If Ryan was normal now, he could answer this question, but he can't right now, and it's really bothering me. The point being, I just looked through some photos, and it looks like he's been drawn with teeth by Kirby and by others, depending on the angle that you're looking at him. I think a lot of times they don't show it, so I always tend to think of him as having like rock lips. That
he has blue eyes. Teeth. Might as well have teeth.
Yeah. If he's a human, though, why is he strong?
I don't think he's human. I think he's a rock man.
Is he just a human?
He's a man what's made of rocks.
This is we're right now like
the ages.
We need to not keep. We could just be on the forever. We're all thinking quietly, and that's not a good sign. That's not good radio.
The chat is destroying me right now because
I don't think that you have the ability to read the chat and do the show, and I think you're gonna have to give one of them up.
There's a vague sense of what's happening in the chat.
Cosmic rays include gamma, but also alpha and beta.
And Kirby.
Okay, in the Marvel universe, they include Kirby.
Because when you go up in space, you don't turn to a man what stretches.
Does
you
Reed
do that
Richards
only in Kirby
have
books.
teeth? Does Johnny Storm have teeth? Does Sue Storm have teeth?
I don't know.
Why would the cosmic rays remove the teeth from one of the 4 Fantastic Adventurers and not the rest?
Well, that doesn't. That logic falls apart quick. Does he? If he has normal teeth, he has normal human teeth in there. Wouldn't they get severely damaged by his rock lips?
No, because our teeth are harder than most rocks. I was on a field trip with geology students from some universities this last weekend, and part of teaching students to be geologists is putting rocks in your mouth and grinding them up against your teeth.
This is some kind of hazing shit.
It's not. So there are rocks where you
put the rocks in your mouth, kid.
The way you can tell, like, is this sandstone? Is this siltstone? Is this mudstone? It's teeth, right? Your teeth, your lips, the sensitivities in your mouth have a better way of
I get it.
Determining that fine-grained substance than your fingers do. So we encourage students, and we do it ourselves too, to put those rocks in their mouth to grind them up and feel what they're doing. And a student asked me, but isn't this going to damage our teeth? And I said to her, no, because your teeth are harder than these rocks.
So why do people crack teeth on like food?
Yeah, well, this is not what this is about, Connor. This is about, putting rocks in your mouth.
You just Fox News that shit.
Your teeth are hydroxyapatite. It's a very hard mineral.
What about like a 40-year-old man who's been drinking diet soda for too long's teeth? Are those harder than rocks?
Those are like porous rocks.
Yeah,
those are rocks that
I can't
water
speak to
filters through.
Your personal carbonic acid experience
because I'm having recession.
That's gums. Let's get off this topic.
No, give me another question, Connor.
Gum recession is just the erosion of your enamel around at the gun line.
Ryan, do 60. We're at the home stretch, guys, by the way. We have only a handful left. I've cut a lot.
Question 60 is from Lucas B. Number 1, has a comic ever made you hungry? Number 2, can you remember a certain food you found particularly beautiful drawn? Parentheses, for me, it's the eggs from Starve number 2 by Daniel Zezul.
Zeze.
Okay. Number 3, what do you consider your own outstanding culinary achievement? Oh, that's number 3 is where the discussion will happen.
So has a comic ever made you hungry?
No.
I don't think so, because food is not really drawn very like realistically in comics. So
yeah, no, and like the most memorable food.
Oh, maybe cup noodle. Maybe cup noodle. That would be the one.
I feel like the most memorable food stuff in comics is when it's like silly. It's like it's weird. So like chew or something.
I feel like there's always a turkey with the leg that comes out like thing. Like it never looks like a real food. So
no.
Can you remember a certain food? Now I will say the book you mentioned, Starve, that was a exception to the rule, and that had good looking food, realistic looking food in it. Great book. Great book.
That's true. I don't know that I can answer those first 2 questions.
What do you, and I'm not going to let the egos run amok on this one too long. What do you consider your own authentic culinary achievement? I'll get mine out of the way. I made some ribs probably 10 years ago.
I love
that.
I
finished on the grill, and I literally picked them up, and the bones came out, just like whoop. All right, it was just so tender. The bones just came right out. Josh and Ryan, both self-proclaimed culinary geniuses. What are your achievements?
I made a mushroom pizza the other night. It was very good.
Oh, buddy. Are you doing the midnight feedings? Are you at all in charge tonight? Just checking.
Let's give it a pass.
I've never seen this. And
it's
Josh, beautiful.
Josh, what's your culinary authentic?
I made a flourless chocolate cake. I saw an Instagram ad for the New York Times food blog, and it was like, "This is the best chocolate cake ever." And I was like, "Lindsay, I gotta go to the store." And I went and I got the stuff, and I made a cake. And I've never made a cake like that before. And I did a ganache frosting, and then there was an espresso whipped cream. And it was so fucking good, the whipped cream. But then we realized that night that we can't eat espresso whipped cream before we need to go to bed.
No.
Because we were flying, man. we were going. And if I have to say one other thing, every time someone's like, "It's so hard to cook a turkey," I was like, "It is not hard to cook a turkey.
No.
Turkey's super easy to cook, not dry out, and make good. You just gotta fucking pay attention to what you're doing, and it's great. I love
a giant chicken in the shape of a sphere. Yeah. Just do it right."
Yeah.
I've never enjoyed a flourless chocolate cake, and I've had many.
I don't know that it was flourless in that same sense.
Saying they're not good. I've never had a good
Connor, how do you feel about mushroom pizza?
I don't really like the texture of mushroom. I like the flavor of mushroom. I like a marsala sauce.
Everyone listening, I just got double rejected.
No. I like the flavor of a mushroom sauce. I don't like the texture of the slimy mushroom.
This wasn't a sauce. This was an olive oil base on the
you can take that shit out.
You know what? I think largely, I don't think I've ever had well-cooked mushrooms in my life.
I roasted the mushrooms in the oven before putting them on the pizza, so they were cooked.
Right. And how did you remove the dirt taste from the mushroom? Because that's the problem with them.
You clean them. Josh, do 61.
Brian C. of Cleveland, Ohio says, "Are comics too cheap? I know we all wish comics were still $1, and I'm not eager to pay more for them, but when I think about the number of people working on a single issue, the specialized skills they have, and the time required to write, draw, letter, color, and edit the comic, I start to wonder if even $5 is too cheap for a comic. Do you think the comic readers undervalue the product?" What a well-reasoned and perspective view of how comics work. I think in a way, yes. In ways, no.
Yeah, I think the answer is both. We've always talked to the people in charge of making the comics, and I remember when it was like the thing to say, why aren't comics made in cheaper paper? And we'll get to the fact there's no cheaper paper, but the fact is they would always say, it doesn't matter what it's printed on. The cost is the people.
Mm-hmm.
The cost is the specialized skill of these artisans who put these books together every month. They're expensive because they're really good at what they do.
And if you want them to do it, then they have to make.
So, in a certain sense, they are undervalued by readers. They are, but at the same time, $5 for 20 pages is a lot to ask for anyone.
I mean, the problem is that the audience isn't big enough to sustain the economies of scale.
They can't scale,
yeah. So, if there were more readers, then everybody would get what they want. If you tripled the number of readers, then comics could be cheaper and the people could be paid more. But that ain't happening. There's
no magic bullet to lower the price of comics. Because of the cost of the talent. If you want, everybody wants great art with detailed backgrounds and feathering on the costumes, and then you got to pay a premium for it.
Yeah, you got people who went to school for that, and then there's the support staff. There's an editor, assistant editor, and all that shit.
Frank,
what's the answer? Yes or no? Are comics too cheap?
We said the answer's both. They're not. The problem is, I think $5 for 20 pages is too much, but at the same time, the people are expensive. What do you do? I don't know the answer.
Yeah. I understand why it costs that much. I don't think that I'm being gouged. I don't think that somebody out there is taking a 40-cent product and paying.
No, they're not raising the. They're raising the price.
$5.
Well, they're also raising the price because they're selling slightly fewer of them. But
right,
even though we said
exactly.
it's booming before. It's booming because the numbers are going up.
I don't think I'm getting ripped off. I don't think there's somebody like making a huge profit off it, other than the people. You got to pay the folks, and that's how the math works out right now. Then you got to make it valuable to the parent company who's doing it to maximize shareholder value.
People in the chat room keep talking about how much comics cost relative to streaming services, but streaming services have tens and hundreds of millions of subscribers. That's why they're able to be cheaper. Also, they're also losing money on those. Netflix is in a huge amount of debt, like a staggering amount of debt. I think most people don't realize that. Frank S. from Phoenix, Arizona. I've been thinking about this question since you started giving away patron powers. What kind of gods are you? Omnipotent gods that merely know the powers that already exist within the patron, or are you more active gods, cursing the patron as you see fit? Where does your ego land?
I'm not sure I know how to answer that.
Are you?
It's the latter.
Are you bringing out the power that already was in the light? Or are you just? We're cursing them. I think we're number 2.
We curse them.
Yeah. I don't think we're cursing them. I think.
No, what I mean is like we are shocking them with a power that does not exist within them already.
Oh, I don't think of it that way. I really do think of it more of the other. I'm identifying it. Oh, this is what this is.
Yeah.
I feel as if it comes to me.
But that's interesting because Josh, I truly do think I'm cursing them.
I don't want to do that though. I would be a benevolent god. I'm a very good direct manager. I think I want to see their success.
No, I'm not saying we're not giving out bad powers. So occasionally we do, like this is a curse on you. Mm-hmm. He's saying, are we watching this dude walk across the street and say, oh, that guy has this power within him, I'm going to uncover it, or are we just going to zap him with this power? And that's the second one.
I'm doing the first.
I'm doing the second.
You're saying these people have the power within them and you're releasing it.
I'm saying that I'm not saying I have chosen this power and I will bestow it on this person. I am looking at it and going, oh, that's the power. No, I'm identifying
I'm doing the second. I'm doing... How do I mess up this person's life?
Jeez. All right. The truth in Vino Veritas, Ryan. Josh, do 63.
Mark V says, I've been thinking about this for many a year now since I got back into reading comics. Why, in floppies, did they advertise film soundtracks so much? Do people even buy film soundtracks?
Is he talking about soundtracks or scores?
I don't know.
Because I buy soundtracks all the fucking time. It's a huge part of my LP collection.
Oh,
really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I get teased. I get teased for playing film soundtracks on a.
Well, now is it soundtracks or scores you're talking about?
I don't know because I haven't seen an actual floppy comic in forever, so I don't know what's in
soundtrack. I'm talking about like Inside Llewyn Davis or All Brother We're Out Thou or
song compilations
from the movie. Mm-hmm. Scores different. That's the music in the music bed. I'm talking about soundtracks. I probably have like 10 or 15 or 20 soundtrack albums.
I got teased for playing scores.
Scores now. There's a hugely popular. Scores are hugely popular among certain people. I know some people.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to tell you. I was on this was years ago, but I was on a field trip in Eastern California, and I didn't know, I was driving and I didn't know what music to play because it was a group of people that I didn't know that well, and I was like, well, I'll just play something that's popular, and so I put on, I'm going to sound like a fucking dork.
No. It's not unusual to buy scores. I know lots of people buy scores.
I put on
his Jaws score right now.
Instrumental Iron Man 1 score.
I don't remember.
That's kind of nerdy.
I don't remember that at all.
It was fucking nerdy. It was dumb. I botched it. I did not do a great job at curating the musical soundtrack of this field trip, but I was also driving. I botched it. It wasn't great.
I think the interesting thing here is that this stuck with you and this pulled this out. There was this one time where I thought
about it.
I think it's important.
Not a great score either.
Lots of people buy scores. Scores are very popular, especially among film nerds. They're very popular items.
Yes, and film nerds and comic nerds are related, so that would make sense that they put those in there.
I only own a couple. I mean, most of my scores are like John Williams Star Wars scores, but like they're very popular. I have Yeah, I probably have at least 20 soundtracks though. If we talk about soundtracks, I have a lot of soundtracks. I've got like
To
4
answer the
Twin Peaks
actual
album
question, I have
soundtracks.
no idea about advertisements of film soundtracks in floppies.
We haven't read those in a while.
It's a great score. Jerry Goldsmith's Planet of the Apes, the original. It's one of my favorite film scores ever.
Also a great movie.
Absolutely.
We're getting close to the end here. So here is Paul P. He's got 2 questions, one of which I don't have in my script. So I'm going to read the first one, then Josh, I'm going to have you read the second one. Paul P.'s question, he's from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Do you ever read comics in print format? Here we go. And if do you ever read comics in print format anymore? And if not, why the hell not? Asking as someone biased against digital, which is grossly inferior comics reading experience.
No.
Nope. Single issues, no.
No, yeah.
I haven't read a single issues paper comic in probably close to a decade. And I read paper trades all the time. I have tons of them. These are.
I would be curious to dig in a little bit more. We don't have time, but just
we have time. We got all the time in the world, Ryan.
We don't.
We got nowhere to be.
We don't.
Life is a square circle.
The more I talk, the more people make fun of me in the chat.
Don't look at the chat.
Those are just a bunch of nerds on the internet.
Listen.
They want to be in your chair.
I can't help but read the words that pass by my eyes. However,
we love you, the chat. We're just
whatever's happening.
Ryan, how do you read digitally?
Yes. To say that it's grossly inferior to the comics reading experience is baffling to me because I actually love reading digital comics. I love that I can wake up in the morning and if I recognize that I have 10 minutes before I have to do something in my life, I can just grab an iPad and read a comic. That to me is that's a benefit of digital comics. It's huge that I can read a comic before I have to deal with my day in a way that it would not be absolutely possible if I was trying to read print comics. So I love digital comics. I think it's a benefit to the medium, not a deficit.
I love that I wake up in the morning on Tuesday, roll over, grab my iPad, and download all my DC books. I'm still in bed. I haven't got out of bed yet.
To Wednesday?
But I ultimately I don't care. Read them however you want. I don't feel partisan about it. It's all just a delivery device for the story. Whether you're reading it on digital or paper. I like reading paper prose books. I like reading paper trades and hardcovers. But I for years, I was, as soon as we got a whiff of digital, I was like, bring it. Because I didn't want to have the single issues anymore. I didn't want to have them around. They were just everywhere.
I mean, it's
the only times
easier.
I buy print comics are to get gifts for Julie.
I get old ones. People in the chat can see behind me. Again, the viewers at home can't see. But I get old special issues like these.
They're not viewers.
I mean, they're not viewers, but they can still see. That's it. Like artifacts like that Captain America, or the Robin Dies at Dawn one, or the first Flash Superman race. But weekly comics, like a random issue of some comic, they were piling up. I don't want them anymore. If they're special, I'll buy the collection. I'll read the collection in paper form.
These are my blue light reading glasses.
Now Josh has reading glasses, by the way, Ryan. I don't know if you know that development. He's had to upgrade to reading glasses. He's an old man.
It's the digital's so much easier. When we used to get going to the shop and fucking buying comics whenever I could find time to leave during the day was a huge pain in the ass. I don't have to deal with anymore. It's we used to get boxes from Image.
Uh-oh. Did it again. we were doing so well.
Comics. I don't want them. It happened again.
Say it again, Josh. You froze.
I know.
It's been a while. It's been a long time. So you say when you're getting a box from Image Comics again, I'll edit that together.
We used to get boxes from Image Comics every week. We would get a box, and it just fucking piled up everywhere, and I couldn't figure. I still have piles of them in corners that I wasn't able to get rid of. I don't want that stuff. I have this house and all the spaces that I don't want shit piling up. And because the weekly comics are so disposable, and I'm sorry, I've been doing this for 15,
most of them are. Look, most of everything is disposable. Most TV shows are disposable. Most music is disposable.
Don't go back to it. It doesn't make sense to pile those goddamn things up.
You keep the good stuff. You read the good stuff, but 90% of it is disposable. And we enjoy it at the time, but it's disposable.
And it's so much easier to just have everything on the iPad and read through it that way. And yes, the double page spread, it's not the best part of it, but
I disagree with that actually. People in the chat room were talking about that. Like, I love the fact that it's an unbroken image in the digital reader. It's not. There's no
like for me.
line
Literally,
it
just gets a little small, and I can't read
it's
it.
not bent. I mean, whatever. But like, you can zoom in on it. But I like that it's an unbroken image. Comics are made digitally. So they're optimized for the screen now. They're colored for the screen. They're drawn for the screen. So on the screen, I think they look the best. They look better.
I just don't like the thing where I'll be reading and then I have to go like this. And when I do that, the relative size of everything shrinks a little bit. It just wrecks my flow. But
you got to get your glasses. You got to dig them up.
Well, no,
I want you to get like the half, like the.
I'm not getting
old man, like the half ones.
I mean, Josh, you're not wrong. It's awful.
Yeah.
Like, no.
It just kills the flow. That's all for me.
It's terrible.
I don't believe that. Paul. No, yeah, Paul has a second question that I can't read. So, Josh, you read it, please.
Paul, from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Do you ever read comics in print? Wait, we just did that.
Nope. Yeah.
Wait.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's the wrong. I'm looking at my notes wrong. Incorrect. We have one last question, and it's a audio question. So we're gonna see how this works. It may or may not work. If it doesn't work, we'll just snip it out of the show. So everyone should be able to hear this. If Ryan and Josh can hear it and the chat can't, the viewers at home can't, I apologize. We'll see how this goes. I am told this should work from the research I did before the show. So this is the final question of the evening, and it comes from Mike O from Buffalo, New York, and he called in with this voicemail. Can you hear that?
Nope.
No.
Never mind then. We won't do it. I was lied to by the StreamYard help desk.
Oh man, I'm desperate. To know what the question was.
We'll do it on the next episode. It's a good question. It's a good look back. We'll do it in the next episode.
I won't be here.
You won't be here, but you'll hear it. That's unfortunate.
If you want, we can just play it for you later, and we can chat about it.
I'll text it to you, Ryan, and you can read it to the chat room. So that was it for the emails. We had tons we didn't get to. I crossed out half of them. If you didn't get your email on the show, I apologize.
Feels like there were fewer emails than last time.
Nope, almost the exact same number as last time. I just caught a lot of them because I'm worried about you. Also, I got to eat. So that was it. Contact at iFanboy.com is where you wrote in to get your email on the show. And if you got your email on the show, awesome. If you didn't, I apologize. Like I said, we'll try to get to them on the regular show. And we're going to plug some things. It's plug time. This is the time in the show where everyone turns off the show.
Plug one.
Bye.
Plug two.
How do we know that?
Plug
because
one.
People keep asking us where our Shang-Chi review is. So this is how we know. It's like like in Spycraft, like they give everybody like a different fact, and which one leaks out, that's how they know who did it. This is how we know when you turn off the show.
You know what my answer to people now is when you're going to do that interview, who DM me?
Mm-hmm.
It's go fuck yourself. I might not write that, and I might not say it, but I sure as shit think it.
Oh, Josh is getting tired. All right, right now, if back in the feed, we got a bunch of shows. I'm going to go in reverse order from most recent to least recent. Josh's Matthew Rosenberg Talksplode. Hey, a Talksplode. It happened. Someone called the Guinness World Records people.
I never doubted Josh.
That was a great conversation.
I knew you had it.
It's a good book. You should get that book when it comes out.
And that's out behind this show on the feed. Right behind that one is the Media Splode, in which we talked about disaster movies that had a great time doing it.
We're going to rebuild.
There was a disaster movie question we skipped, but we can get back to it another time.
What are you going to do?
And then behind that is the special edition Batman Long Halloween Part 2 that Ryan missed.
What?
Were you having a baby? Why did you miss it? You were having a baby.
I had zero babies, but a baby did appear in my life.
You had that? Did you watch that one, Ryan?
And it won't go home.
I hit the button to play it and then fell immediately asleep.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at your face, and then Josh's commiseration face. If you have a moment while you're up feeding, it's excellent. Part 2. Part 1 sucks.
Good.
Part 2 is excellent.
Good to know.
It's like its own movie. It doesn't need to be part 2. Later this month, there'll be another Talksplode, Josh?
Yep.
All right. And then later this month, there'll be an animated Brain Trust episode on Injustice. Maybe Ryan will join that one. Maybe not. We'll find out. It's almost like a fun game. And then also, because we promised it, and I'm increasingly regretting that promise, we'll have an animated Brain Trust on What If. And then a reminder. I
forgot about that show. Turns out there's 3 episodes that I haven't watched.
Yeah, I'm too behind. That's kind of boring. Reminder, no Shang-Chi review until it's on streaming, which is November 12th.
Go fuck yourself.
I'm saying this for my health, apparently, because no one is listening. And then Ryan, talk about science sort of.
That Connor just turned into an old cranky Jewish man for a moment.
Ryan, science sort of, tell us about it.
I do a podcast.
Are you still doing it?
Trying, man.
He's trying a lot right now.
Every once in a while, I think to myself, when will Josh ask me to be on a Talksplode?
Well,
he might ask you. He's getting desperate.
You don't make comics.
It makes no sense that I would be on a Talksplode.
Maybe you can interview Josh for episode 100.
Dude, I would interview the
It makes no sense that I would be on Talksplode.
I would interview the shit out of Josh. I would do such a good job interviewing Josh.
Wow.
That kind of
This is
sexy.
where all the truth came out.
I would interview you slowly, and then later I would interview you with more custom.
You'd feel it.
Oh boy. This is going to get us the mature label on iTunes. This iTunes is not even a thing anymore.
Head on over to iFanboy.
Welcome to Burger King. May I take your order?
By the way, Ryan, I texted Mike and said, Ryan is hammered on the show right now. You might want to come check it out. I don't know if he did or not, but
we all live in hope.
We all have stories. Ryan, your show. Is it still coming out? Not? Yes? ScienceSortOf.com.
What did I say? I said I'm trying. What more do you need?
Do you have partners who can put it out in your absence?
No, they no. Literally, the entire 10-year history of my show has been an exercise in how no one else can do it but me, apparently.
Welcome to our lives for the last 15 years or whatever it is.
I am trying.
Listen, I'm going to take a break in the script here and read for the listeners the scroll at the bottom. I don't know if you guys have noticed the scroll at the bottom. I put in some iFanboy fun facts for this episode. Pick League episode number 1 was released November 5th, 2005. And the top 5 most Pick League appearances, number 1, me, 739 shows. Josh, 731. Just not too far behind. Ron, 458. Paul, 122. Ryan, 37. Longest Pick League show was episode 650 at 3 hours, 33 minutes, 40 seconds.
Are you trying to make us hang out here for another 6 minutes?
Top 5 most used music artists, Josh. These are going to be very familiar to you. Texas is the Reason 24 times. Jimmy Eat World 13 times. A tie between Darlene Love and December is 12 times.
Huh.
Bad Religion and Dinosaur Jr. tied at 10 times. And
Each?
Cake and The Descendants tied at 7 times.
So those are just all my favorite bands at the end there.
Shortest Pick League episode number 1, 18 minutes, 53 seconds. Top 5 most picked series on the show, not all time because we did 5 years without the show. Batman, number 1, 21 times. Daredevil, 17 times. Number 3, tied between Captain America and Detective Comics, 12 times. And Action Comics and Thor. No, The Amazing Spider-Man tied for number 4, 11 times. And then a tie between Fantastic Four and Thor, Mighty and God of Thunder. It's the same series, 10 times. And then the most number of books covered in one Pick the Week show was episode 335, 42 books.
Jesus fuck.
That was a bell show.
I would hope
and the
so.
Pick the Week airs by the number of episodes. Number 1, the original trio, 370 episodes. The Two Jamokes Part 2, which we're currently in, 190 episodes. Ron Returns, 118 episodes. The Paul Era, 99 episodes. And Two Jamokes, that's the original Two Jamokes era, 20 episodes. And the first ever Pick the Week guest host, episode 44, Alkid Blake Jr. So let's go back to the script. Josh, you're up.
So that's it. Go over to ifanboy.com. You will find those shows. You can listen through many of those things. There's also a bunch of writing from people like Ryan, like Jim in the chat there. I don't know if he's still around. I mean, I know he's still alive. I mean, on the chat. I think he died in the course of this show.
He might have.
Other people.
Would you blame him?
Many Bothans died in the course of the show.
Would you blame him?
No.
I'm gonna call Julie tomorrow and make sure Ryan didn't die in the course of the show.
You can like facebook.com/iFanboy or at iFanboy on Twitter or at iFanboy Comics on Instagram to find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. That's pretty much all we do with those. There's sometimes there's best panels of the week. Sometimes we don't get to it. Sometimes, but
depends
that's
on
the
how
thing.
busy the weekend is.
It's a bonus feature. That's what that is. You can follow us individually on Instagram at CSKilpatrick, J.A. Flanagan, or Haupt, Haupt. You should change that to Dr. Haupt. Or Ryan Haupt on Wait, no, you're Haupt on Twitter. Ryan Haupt on Instagram. Sorry about that. You gotta smooth that out.
Tighten that up.
Subscribe to
you gotta keep it tight, Ryan. Keep it tight.
Progress.
Subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/iFanboy to keep up to date on the old video show re-uploads this past week. There's the movie review mini of Wanted.
Can I just say,
Loom of Fate. Don't slow me down.
Wait,
Emerald City Comic Con 2010 comic book voicemail show. Okay, go ahead.
What Patreon level do we need to get to that I can come on a grilling show?
We have to get to the grilling one. That's the next one. So we got comic TV shows and then grilling. You're more than welcome.
You can come on. If we just get to the grilling one, you can come on.
I know
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a special.
We know that, but we got to get to it. It's a level, but you got to get to it. Josh, they want you to strum us out while I do my final segment on your guitar, if you're willing.
My hand still hurts.
Okay, Josh is going to.
Also, it's 12:30, and my wife is sleeping on the other side of that wall. She's probably already mad at me.
Just tell her to call Ryan and yell at him. If you like the show, write us a review or leave a star rating on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever your podcasts are sold, whatever aggregator you're using, or better than that is word of mouth. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your kids, tell your letter carrier, tell your wife after you wake her up at 12:30 with your guitar that it was all about the show. Word of mouth is a great way to help the show. Spread the love. Thank you very much. We appreciate everyone who does that. Ryan, thanks for coming on, and we apologize for everything.
I apologize for nothing.
How are you going to feel?
I kind of feel like I'm in the wrong here, but I don't.
You're not in the wrong. You're not in the wrong at all.
Are you kidding me? This was fantastic.
That's it for this week's show. Until next week, I am Connor. Ryan, you're in the script next. Ryan,
hang on, let me just check the script. Look at that.
I don't know how much that he's playing it up. But I hope none of it. I hope with every ounce of my being that this is 100% like just some confused motherfucker on a computer with a microphone. He's trying his best, but things are moving too fast.
I snorted in a way I did not intend to. Turns out I am Ryan.
Think of words.
For better or worse.
I haven't even seen him with a drink in an hour.
Did you have one drink? What was the proof? 400 proof?
Listen, Vic Bob.
I don't know if this is my perspective because normally I don't think super drunk people are very funny, but this shit is fucking hilarious. Because there's a newborn fatigue that's mixed up with it, and that dude
is drink. He always slept in 2 months. Probably has had much to drink. Yeah.
Vic Bob does a nice job.
Boss Vic Bob. Someone end the fucking show.
All right, that's it. I'm Josh. Go to bed. Just wherever you are, I don't care what time it is. I don't know when you listen. Get to bed. Will you please go to bed?
I'm Connor.
All right, that's the show.
Oh fuck!
Thanks for hanging out, everyone in the chat room who stuck around. We've lost about a quarter of the listeners in the last hour, but that's okay. It's late.
They blew it, I think.
There was one question I did want to answer. It was from Kyle, who said, if you get the grilling level at Patreon, is it for once a month or will you do it just one time? It's not once a month or one time. It's a quarterly barbecue show. So it'll be 4 times a year in some capacity.
Shaggy Brown 1969 says Ryan's hair just getting looser and looser, and I looked over at him, and it does. He looks like he was in Hamilton in the first act, and it was okay, and at the end, all the shit has gone wrong.
Yeah, it's not going great over here, folks.
I disagree. You look like Charlie Day right now.
Oh, I really thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you for all hanging out, all the viewers at home, the viewers to come later and endure this.
We know they're not viewers.
We know they're not viewers, but thanks for watching. And I had a great time. I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed this. Oh, boy.
Listen, I recorded in a space where I know there's a bed available if I need to just...
You just roll over to it. I feel kind of bad, Josh, that we may have broken Ryan.
I think that we've opened him up.
I'm not doing great.
Someone should hand you a screaming baby right now.
Oh, I did want to give a shout out.
See that fucker turn around you.
I did want to make a note. I did want to shout out to Jack in the chat room, who, through the course of a year of listening to podcasts, including ours, and walking, has lost 120 pounds.
Holy fuck.
Good job, Jack. And if we were all to help in that, thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. I don't know what's happening. It's late. I haven't eaten dinner yet. But that's awesome, Jack.
Oh, that's amazing.
Good job. So thank you for watching. I'd love to hang out, but I do need to eat. We'll hang out another time. Next time we have a Patreon hangout. Maybe Ryan will come during the next Tiki hangout. Who knows?
Maybe Ryan will come back someday. We don't know.
Maybe Julie will let us talk to Ryan again.
That's a good point.
In 10 or 15 years. All right, guys.
She's the real hero here.
That was the correct choice.
Good answer. You could have gone in a very bad direction, but you didn't. You pulled out.
And I was kind of like, "Ooh, where's he going here?" Okay, good choice. But just for a second, I thought, "Oh, this could happen.
This could be bad." We were there for the beginning, and we were there for the end. Cause of both. We caused it to happen. We caused it to fall apart.
Damn right.
Anyway, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening for these last, 16 years? Josh? 16 years?
Yeah.
Thanks for 16 years of listening. We've enjoyed it, and we're going to keep going as long as we're enjoying it, as long as you're enjoying it. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.